Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin, Buchanan.
Make a mistake. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be a great program, and we're building it into a great program.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I stand by what we do and how we do it.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
It's kind of a weird Friday for me because I didn't do the show on the Friday before or the bye week Friday, right? But that's kind of how I feel going into this game. Not that I think it's a cakewalk taking on Mississippi State, but the kind of excitement and energy level that I would have going into a bye week is kind of how it's just. It's a weird Friday, and I'm going to see if Olin's feeling that same way. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in here during the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Obi, I don't know if I'm categorizing it the right way, but it is just. I don't want to say there's not. There is an excitement. There isn't excitement level. Like, the only thing I can think about is this is a 3-part story that has to finish with 3 wins, right? That's how I look at this game from Mississippi State. It's just act 1 of a 3-act play that for me to feel any kind of, yay, I need that to happen.
Well, I think what you're getting at is A&M now stands for, at least this week, apathetic and morose.
I don't want to lead that charge, but that's just how I feel right now.
Well, you know? I think that's how your fan base is. And what this coaching staff has done is turn one of the most passionate, loyal, just rabid fan bases in the country, maybe the most, turned it kind of apathetic because, you know, they just look. It's not players. A&M love. I mean, the players. Everybody wants them, you know, but there's no way to rationalize 5-4 right now.
No, there isn't.
You watch it Miami, and you see Miami kind of struggling, and they've lost to teams that you should be much better than, and, you know, the games that you had a chance to win, and you didn't make the plays because you don't find the inches and all those things, and you've heard it so much, and you've seen like you said, you know what it is? It's like, are you going to get excited to watch the same movie again?
Depends which movie.
Yeah, but even the best.
Even the best. It's not like that first time you saw it at the theater,
or even the second.
Yeah, and I feel that.
So when you've seen this thing over and over, and now you're 5-4, and it's like, yeah, you know, the best case scenario is you finish out and go 8-4, and go to maybe Nashville for a obscure bowl game. It's like, I want to get the least obscure bowl game. So there's just, you know, you feel like you feel like you spent a lot of money on something that you didn't get value for.
Yeah.
And so there's another game coming up. Okay.
And I think part of the reason it feels so different is because we saw somewhat of the same story last year. Somewhat.
Yeah.
Right? But at the end of last year, you're thinking to yourself, they're going to change offensive coordinators. Connor's going to be the dude, right? And we've already said that. So it doesn't feel the same right now.
Yeah. Again, when you get into November and you're irrelevant nationally, especially when you have higher aspirations and you've invested financially and emotionally to reach those aspirations, and then it's one thing. Again, last year you could okay, it was a bad year, and there's reasons, and you don't have to like it, but when it happens again, and then to me, what I have to come away with, I'm thinking this decline that A&M's in, that's made I can't tell you the exact date, but I can tell you the day it started.
Where's that?
The day Mike Elko left. The day Mike Elko because at least he was putting out defenses that, always gave you a chance.
You wouldn't say it was the year before, though?
No, because I thought, did they underachieve that year? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I feel like with Mike Elko as your defense coordinator, was always putting a defense out there that kept you in games. You can say, well, they've been in games. Well, they weren't in the game against Miami because, they were but it wasn't because of defense. And the defense let you down last week, and I still don't think it's players. I think it's the scheme and some of the things they do that just doesn't make sense. And, you don't see much of the blitzes coming from different places and all those things. I think that when you lost one of your better coaches and then, you follow that up with the tragic death of Terry Price, and I don't think – there's so many things, but I just feel like, gosh, if you still had Mike Elko here, the whole program overall would be better. Was the offense going to be better? No, but maybe you get more chances for the offense and better field position, those kind of things.
Make no mistake about what I'm saying here. That's how I feel on a Friday.
Yeah,
come game day, look, I if they went out, and I know you got to put stars in front of if, right? Like, if they went out, I will go into this offseason in a much better place. Not the place I wanted to go in, right? I did predict this team to be 9-3 and 8-4, but I think it's how you get to 9-3 and 8-4.
I think that's huge, yeah.
Right? Like, so, I think we just want hope, and we have no hope at the moment.
There's not a lot. You feel like you're in a sinking boat and you're trying to build water while it's raining. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a hopeless situation. Or at least it feels that way right now. Now, if they were to lose to Mississippi State tomorrow, then I think there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth and maybe pitchforks and torches. But if you can win the next two games, at least you go in. Last year LSU kind of saved. I don't want to say save the season. You still finished with
save the offseason,
but it gave you hope for what can you do. Yeah. So maybe you can have that same thing. But if you were to win out, first of all, I don't see anything that tells me that they.
Yeah. But
if it happens,
you got to play the games.
But once again, how many times does this repeat itself before you say no? It's not. It's not. Why am I going to get excited about what I guess what it's saying is, to sum it up, is, you're really in a sad position if you're asking your fan base that it gives so much, and you're asking them to get excited over the possibility of finishing 8-4. 8-4 should always, no matter the situation, be a disappointment here. And you're asking them, hey, get excited, because if everything falls right and we could finish 8-4.
Yay, we split with the Mississippi schools. Yay.
By gosh, Abilene Christian had no shot. Think about that. Trying to sell excitement over the possibility of finishing 8-4.
What did I see? I know we've gone over the last 2 years record, but what are we, 15-15 in the last 30 games? Is that what I read?
That's probably right. I just haven't looked at it. I just know if they go 7-5, which is likely, then you're 12-12.
Jimbo Fisher, 15-15 in his last 30 games. Yep.
And that's not acceptable. It wasn't acceptable with the previous coach. It wasn't acceptable with the coach before him or the coach before him.
So it is the Friday before the game. We probably got to do some game stuff. So let's run our mouths. 3 things we want to see, brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store, where you can find Brooks on Hoka shoes, located at Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. Give me 3 things you want to see this weekend.
Well, let's see. I want to see touchdowns in the red zone. When they get to the red zone, I want to see touchdowns. I don't want to leave anything up for field goals ever again. Let's go for it on fourth down all the time. Go for it. Go for the win. Well, at least when it makes sense. Or I want to see a strong pass rush. I want to see that every game because, and I want to see, I want to see Max Johnson play.
Yeah.
No offense to Jalen Henderson or anybody else, but A&M needs to win this game. And I know Mississippi State has its problems. They don't have their starting quarterback, perhaps. They may not have their best offensive weapon, Woody Marks. He hasn't played in the last 2 games. I think it's up in the air whether or not he's going to play. But A&M needs to win this game.
Yep.
And so I'm hoping to see Max Johnson play.
I'm going to give you my 3 things, and they sound somewhat similar. Line continued to do what we saw in the second half of that game. Now, I think that was a culmination of what we saw in the first half, and Ole Miss's defense getting tired because they kept on chipping away. I want to see those holes that we saw in the second half of that game. That's A. I want to get back to what this defense has done so well this year, what I feel like it's been a few weeks since we've really felt the wrath of the pass rush. I know they got 4 on Spencer Rattler. I do know that. But I didn't feel the barrage that I had felt earlier in the season, and we certainly didn't see it last week against Jackson Dark. So I want to get back to the barrage, sorry, whatever. I want to see the attack. And I also want to see who wants it. Okay? So you had an emotional loss to Ole Miss where you did not give up and you played your butts off. I want to see those players still have that dog in them against Mississippi State.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see who will play. If Max Johnson does play, he's going to play in discomfort. Mm-hmm. I have to believe. And that just makes me admire the kid even more if that's the case. And I happen to believe that if he doesn't play, it's just because it's just not possible, right? And look, I don't ever want to discount anybody's injury because I don't know how their level of pain, right? Yep. But when you have guys that sit out, with I was working, okay, fine. But I like those kind of guys that if it's possible to play, I'm going to, the old Ronnie Lott, hey, cut off my finger. Yep. You don't have to go that far.
We're in a different world of college, of athletics in general, right. Not just college football.
But you get an idea. Jimbo used to have this line. He said, we'll be champions when, and I must not be there, but when wearing that helmet on Saturday means as much to you as, the typical Aggie wearing his ring.
Yep.
And I think a game like this gives you an idea who wearing that helmet on a game day really means means a lot to them. I think of some of the guys you have in or you interview that are former players and how much passion they still have.
They still have it,
for the
man.
Program. I want to know who are those guys that 10, 20 years from now are still going to love this program and not be like, I have to admit, there are some guys, I'm not going to mention any names, but after watching this team for the last couple of years, there are some guys I wonder if they're indifferent or not.
Yeah. I actually had this conversation with my brother yesterday. I want it to be, I want A&M on your chest to mean something, right? There were when I was growing up, there were people, and I'm not even talking athletes, and I know there's still these people out there, but there were people and athletes that they're going to A&M. That they want to be an Aggie.
Right.
I want an Aggie.
How many times do you see interviews now, or have you seen interviews, not with us, but nationally, with Von Miller? And Von Miller will end his interview with Gig'em or something. He makes reference to A&M because, that's a guy that means something too. I saw Myles Garrett play in the bowl game when he didn't have to. I saw Christian Kirk play in the bowl game when it has to.
This is recent history. This is not that far.
And these are guys that would be drafted higher than probably anybody on the team, and it meant something to them. It meant this program that had given them so much meant something. And I just wonder how many guys feel that. And I think a game like this one and a season like this reveals a lot about who might be some of those guys that feel that way about this program and this university.
If you want to be part of the conversation, you can call us on the Brian Foley Law Hotline, 979-693-1150. You can text us at that number as well. Let's quickly go around the room and say hello to the people. We go behind the glass, and Nick Savage is working this morning. Nick, good morning. I don't know why I said it like that.
I work every morning.
Yeah, well, slow down. Good morning, buddy. I'm just kidding.
Whatever. We'll move on. Couple of quick hitters here for you. Luke Evangelos put this together. Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher's record on a 6:30 p.m. kickoff time, 8-3. Texas A&M is 13-8 after a loss under Jimbo Fisher. If you take away that 6-game losing streak last year, they would be 11-4. And after a loss, A&M is 9-3 at home, 3-0 at a neutral site, and 1-5 on the road. So trends point to a win. But
I can hear the gamblers running to Vegas right now.
Well, here's the only trend that matters. What a record is at the end of the year. There's too many of the negative trends. I want more of the positive trends.
That's right, and there's a possibility that they could go 8-4.
There is a possibility of that.
Woohoo!
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Hannah, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, so Saturday's been putting the hurt on us a little bit, yes, but I have a Friday itinerary that I'm hoping is going to make all of us Aggies feel a little bit better. So at 10:30 today, cross-country runs at the NCAA South Central Regional in Arkansas. Then we got 1 p.m. Equestrian. They're home. They're going to be taking on last week they took on number 7 South Carolina. This week they're taking on number 2 Auburn at home. So a big win is possible for them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Obi. At 6, men's basketball is going to be taking on Ohio State tonight. They just took a win off of Commerce. And so I think everybody is looking forward to having some basketball to cheer for.
Yes.
At 6, volleyball is taking on Missouri and Missouri tonight. They are 6-2 away, so there is a lot of hope on that. And then at 7, soccer is playing CU Boulder for the first round of the NCAA tournament at Ellis Field.
All right, taking on Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Hey,
you know what? That soccer team's interesting to me.
What makes them interesting?
I'll tell you why. Because I know they don't have the record that's gaudy, but it's my understanding. I'm not gonna. You know more about it, but it seems to me that they played an awful lot of high-level teams, and it sounds kind of like football. Very often, we're in a position to win, and maybe even should have won, got more shots than that.
Yes,
and are so close that I think they're one of those teams that when you get into the playoffs,
you don't want to face.
That you don't want to face. I think that's the team that, people would be like Colorado's like, God, we got A&M. Because, their coaches know what
was it, the 2017 season or 18 season that A&M football took on all the number 1 teams or top?
Yeah, that was
2018?
That was 19.
2019, okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. They've taken on like these top 10 teams a lot, and they really had a chance in the last minute. They've got potential to do some fun things, because if they win against Colorado, they would go to Tallahassee to take on Florida State,
who they've already played this year
and should have beat.
And they had a great chance to beat.
Had a great chance.
That was the first game of the year. They're a dangerous team.
Hey, Hannah, can we get 1 or 2 text messages in? I know Chase and some others sent some stuff in.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people are agreeing that the mood definitely feels weird. I think Matt in San Antonio says that he's never said this before, but he will watch both of the teams, meaning basketball and football, but his emotional investment is more into basketball now.
I get it. What about Chase?
Chase says that, I thought about this last night. The last time I feel A&M was nationally positive was in 2020, and the players were trying to force a game with Ohio State on social media during a week they didn't have a game. Everyone nationally at the time wanted to see A&M play and felt like they were in their corner.
Good stuff, Chase. Appreciate you. Got to get you on the fan show here soon. Excuse me, I had a little thing in my throat. Let's finish off the segment with a Fargo's reference, because, look, I feel like this segment, our energy's been down, but it's more because we're reacting to how we feel at the moment. It's like a little Sari Jessie Raphael. Wasn't she kind of like a therapist online or on TV?
I guess.
Yeah. I know you're a big talker. So if you were to, all right, or Dr. Melfi, if you could go talk to Dr. Melfi, and she'd say, go do something that makes you feel good, Olin.
Well, first of all, I think I would pray about what's going on at A&M, because I'm a religious guy.
Yeah.
And if you're in certain religions, you want to pray and you want to adhere to the religion, and in certain religions you don't eat meat on Friday.
Sure.
But you eat fish.
You eat fish.
And if I wanted to eat fish because I want to follow my religion, I would go to Fargo's because I can get the 4 seafoods.
Wait, they got 4 seafoods there?
Well, I call it that. The 4 C's. You can get the catfish.
Okay, that's good.
You can get the coleslaw.
I like that.
You can get the corn.
Actually, I don't
I do.
Okay.
You can get the corn and the crunchy hush puppies.
Crunchy hush puppies.
So you can get all 4 of those at Fargo's today. But if if you follow a religion that doesn't teach, that allows meat or encourages, well, you can still get all your barbecue favorites. And even tomorrow, if you want to wait, you can call in early and reserve rib tips.
It's true your nickname is Big Meat Eater. Is that true?
No, but I am a carnivore.
Carnivore. By the way,
I'm carnivorlin.
Carnivorlin.
No, that doesn't work.
I like it. No, I think it works.
Carnivolin.
Carnivolin.
Yeah.
By the way, Fargo's is at 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. Without a doubt, the
best barbecue in Texas, which equates to being the best barbecue in the world.
Amazingly, that's their trademark.
Well, it's true.
It's Fargo's. Billy?
No, this singing right here.
Who is it?
This is Eddie Rabbit.
Oh, yeah. He that's where Bad Bunny's love.
He came from Eddie
No,
Rabbit.
I'm kidding. I have no idea. I know the song, obviously.
Yeah, Eddie Rabbit.
Eddie Rabbit. What is this his only hit, or did he have?
Oh
more?
no, he also had one called "Driving My Life Away."
Huh.
It was a really good tune, actually.
It is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, it is now time for OB's matchups presented by Bach Realty. Bach Realty Group, brokered by Real, is a full-service residential real estate team run by former TexAgs Radio host Gabe Bach and his wife Megan. Megan, Gabe, and their team ready to help you from luxury and new construction to farm and ranch, first-time home buyers, investment properties, and much, much more. Let Bach Realty Group be the Aggies you trust for all of your real estate needs. Olin, we also probably need to try to get some of our pick six in this segment. So let's start quickly on our matchups.
Okay, how about the Texas A&M quarterback, whoever that may be, against the Mississippi State pass rush, which might be better than you think. You know, Mississippi State has 20 sacks, but did you know also that the leading sack guy in the SEC is Mississippi State linebacker Nathaniel Watson? So they like to.
How many does he have on the year? Like 7?
He has 8.
8. Okay.
So they like to blitz. How is the quarterback going to handle that? You know, and I say you can say, well, the offensive line. Well, the offensive line's kind of up and down when it comes to that. So how is the quarterback going to handle it? If it's Max Johnson, if it's Jalen Henderson, because I think there's opportunities again in the secondary if the quarterback makes the right reads, if the quarterback's able to run and escape. So I think that's really important. Is how is the Texas A&M quarterback, whoever they may be, how are they going to fare against that pass rush? How are they going to handle it?
Yeah, I think unfortunately that seems to be the storyline every time they play. But this is one that maybe a little underrated from what because I mean I think we knew Ole Miss, obviously the numbers were there, that they were pretty good at getting the quarterback.
And again, I think what makes this more of a wild card with your quarterback is that Mississippi State likes to blitz so much.
Yep.
And how are you going to handle that? Are you going to read it? Are you going to get rid of the ball? Are you going to run away from it?
What's the next one?
How about that A&M running game against Mississippi State's linebackers? Because, you know, success in the running game really so often is dependent on how you block the linebackers. Yep. Have you seen those Mississippi State linebackers, Jet Johnson and Watson? They rank first and second in the SEC in tackles.
Wow.
A&M's running game has been kind of up and down. It looked pretty good at times last week.
Yep.
Is that something that you're going to be able to continue? Is that offensive line going to be able to get to the second level and block those linebackers and create space for who is it going to be? Is it going to be Le'Veon Moss? We think so. We think he's playing Amari Daniels, Reuben Owens, all of the above. I'll say this, Mississippi State, when they've won, they've held their opponents to an average of 98.2 rushing yards a game.
Wow.
When they've won. So
what is A&M rush per game?
I don't have that exactly.
We'll
right
get
now.
it. Okay, but continue.
Probably somewhere around 140
Here we
yards.
go. A&M rushing per
131.
Game. There you go.
So run effectively against a Mississippi State defense that can be pretty good against the run, especially when you might have a quarterback playing his first game. We don't know, or if not, you got an injured quarterback. How about in this one again? Every week, but how about that A&M pass rush against the Mississippi State offensive line? You know, regardless who's starting at quarterback for Mississippi State, because they don't know, there could be one of three guys. It could be Will Rogers if he's healthy. I've heard he may not be, but who
he's
knows?
missed 5 games in a row, something like that.
He's been out a while because with a bad shoulder. It could be Mike Wright, who's struggled as a passer but can run, and they're even talking about bringing in this freshman Parsons. Chris? Is it Chris? I think it's Chris Parsons. That A&M pass rush still leads the conference with 34 sacks, but only one last week. I think that A&M needs to be able to be successful defensively. They have to get a strong pass rush. And by the way, Mississippi State has given up at least 3 sacks in losses to LSU, South Carolina, Alabama, and Kentucky.
At least 3 sacks.
At least 3 sacks. You know what? What's their last win was against Arkansas.
Arkansas 7-3.
Yeah. You know how many sacks they gave up? 1.
1 sack.
Yeah. So I think that pass rush is going to be important.
Yeah, absolutely. And stopping the run be very important against them, right, OB?
Well, I was going to come up with the A&M run defense against the Mississippi State running game. Now, is Jaquavius Woody Marks going to
Woody
play.
Marks, yeah.
He hadn't played the last 2 games. Got a leg injury, but supposedly he's back in practice. If he's practicing, that makes me think he's probably going to play. And he's their best offensive player.
Yep.
Since the coaching staff neutered
Will
Rogers, Jaquavius Marks is their best running back. Now that Texas A&M gave up 131 yards rushing last week, but they're still the number 2 ranked run defense in the SEC. So if they can stop or contain anything Mississippi State wants to do running, then you put the ball in the quarterback's hands. You either got one that's playing with a hurt shoulder, or one that's struggling and only runs, or one that's never or hadn't played much at all in his college career. If you put it on them to have to win the game by throwing, I think you're in a great situation.
Agree.
And then finally, how about the A&M cornerbacks against the Mississippi State receivers? You know, they haven't been what they've been in the past, but Tulu Griffin has caught 38 passes for 554 yards. They've had this sophomore, Xavion Thomas, in the last 2 games, 15 catches, 156 yards, and I think 2 touchdowns just in the last 2 games. So he's kind of coming on. And let's face it, we don't know who's going to be starting at corner for A&M. Could it be, could it be Javon Thomas and Sam McCall again?
Right.
If so, or whoever it is, I think you're going to look at those A&M corners and see if they can fare better than they did last week.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with Tony Gerdeman, lead beat writer for Buckeye Huddle. We'll get a little update on how this game could go, A&M Ohio State basketball. Right now we're talking Heritage Films, which is a company that makes documentary films about families, about family businesses, and family ranches. They're so good at what they do. Chance McClain is the founder and a buddy of mine who he's really good at storytelling. And when he tells your story, you're going to come back and you're going to be like, man, my story's better than I thought. But it's your story, and he just knows how to present it in a great way. If you've got some aging parents that you want to make sure that you get them speaking about their life and what it means to be the patriarch of your family, if you've got somebody important in your life, or maybe you just want to make sure you tell your family's story, call Chance McClain up to get that done. That is a Heritage Film, a 2-hour documentary. You also have the Year Flicks option, which is a 20-minute video, usually for the younger kids out there. And when I say younger, it could be any age. It could be 10 to 15 to maybe freshman year of college, where it's more of Q&A, fun-form videos that are going to be preserved for a long time. They're more benchmark videos because you can follow it up in a couple years. Hey, what's your major this year? What are you into? How's your freshman year going? Oh, you transferred to this school. How are things going? All these years can be documented in a Year Flicks. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. All right, we're back. It's TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, The Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Let's talk a little A&M basketball taking on Ohio State. Ohio State did struggle last year, but they're a proud program. We go to the hotline, the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We're joined by Tony Gerdeman, lead beat writer for the Buckeye Huddle. Thanks for joining us, Tony. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the lead-in with one of my favorite songs of all time.
All right. There you go. What song was it?
That's Lukenbach, Texas. Whaling and Willie.
Oh, Lukenbach, Texas. Yes, of course. Good old Whaling. Talk to me a little bit about Ohio State this year. I know last year was a disappointment, but they think, they got 4 starters come back. They think they figure some things out. Tell me a little bit about this year's team.
Yeah, they've got, like you said, 4 starters coming back. One of those starters, Zed Key, the starting center for the past 2 or 3 years, now coming off of the bench in favor of a sophomore center, Felix Akpara, who has more potential, more athleticism, but is still just a sophomore and got into foul trouble in the season opener. So they've got now a 6th man who has essentially led the team the past couple of years. So I think that helps them. But it's still every year now you're bringing in 3 or 4 transfers and you're trying to figure out how to work them into the system. And right now, they started 2 transfers, Evan Mahaffey from Penn State and Jamison Battle from Minnesota. So they've got some in-conference transfers that know how to play in the Big Ten. So they're in the starting lineup right now, but it's still going to be led by their sophomore backcourt of point guard Bruce Thornton and shooting guard Roddy Gale. I think those 2 will take Ohio State as far as they go this year. And they're pretty good, but still looking for the kind of consistency that you can rely on all season long.
So their strength sounds like is in the backcourt. Imagine that. What a matchup that makes for tonight with that backcourt against A&M's.
Well, and early in the season, that's kind of the stuff you want to see, and it's also the stuff you want to see in March that leads you into the tournament. So, it's a great measuring post for Ohio State, I think, with the A&M, and perhaps the same for A&M to just see how you measure up against teams that believe that they are guard reliant and believe in their guards. And Bruce Thornton is started every game for the Buckeyes as a true freshman at point guard. He's a tough. He looks more like a safety than a point guard. So he'll be one for you guys to watch. And, he can shoot it and he can dish it, but he's just the Energizer Bunny type. He's got a lot of energy and he'll push it when they can. Although Ohio State has not been great on the fast break over the last few years, but they're getting better.
With Ohio State football being number 1 and obviously taking on Michigan State tomorrow, is there interest in basketball right now, considering the way last season went and this being a big home game? Do you expect it to be a raucous crowd? Well, just kind of give me the energy level, the temperature, if you will.
Yeah, November basketball is a tough sell in Columbus because of the Ohio State football program. But this is an early season big game, and so I think you'll have 15, 16,000. I think the arena seats 18 or 19, and it can get there and it can be loud when there are enough people in there. A lot of the early season games for Ohio State are like Monday's game against Oakland, which is a smaller school in Michigan. So this is a bigger game. It's a weekend. It's an opportunity for people to get out there. I expect a pretty good crowd for this. And then, of course, it's up to the Buckeyes to keep the crowd in it.
Hey, Tony, as somebody that, again, beat writer season all the time, what was your takeaway from that opening game against Oakland, 79-73?
Yeah, I think it's just an early season game where the team is still trying to figure out who they are and how these veteran pieces from other programs fit in. And they've had a ton of practice over the year, over the summer. And so they've got all that, but it's different when you're facing another actual live team. And so you're still trying to figure that out, trying to figure out roles like Jamison Battle from Minnesota. He can do a lot of different things. He can shoot, he can handle, and he can play 4, he can play 3, that sort of thing. And so figuring out how aggressive to be when your team is led by a sophomore point guard, when can you take over, when, how much to defer, those kinds of things are still being factored in. And, November, the team in November is not the same team in December. It's into January and February and things like that. So there's still plenty of room for growth. I think one of the positive things that we saw on Monday is guard Roddy Gale, who last year in March in the Big Ten tournament really took off. He was top 50 recruit, top 100 recruit for the Buckeyes, and kind of started slowly, but then picked up as the March in conference tournament went on. And then he kind of started slowly on Monday in terms of his shooting. I think he was 0 for 4 from 3, but in the second half really started attacking the zone, hitting some pull-up jumpers in the paint and just being more aggressive. And so you saw him pick up that confidence from where it left off last year, which is what head coach Chris Holtman really wanted for him, because, you can't stay a freshman for long. And as a sophomore, if they're going to rely on you, you need to be a veteran player, even as a sophomore. So they saw that. We saw that. I think if Felix Stockpar, their sophomore center, can stay out of foul trouble, he gives them a defensive presence. He's a shot blocker in the middle. He's 6'11". He's athletic. He jumps quickly. And so he's going to be a factor in there. But he played, I think, 13 minutes against Oakland and had 4 fouls. So if he can stay on the court, then he's a factor.
Tony, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for your insight this morning. We'll see the game later on today and hopefully catch up with you down the road.
Yep. Have a good one.
Thank you. Tony Gerdeman there, breaking it down on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Appreciate his time here on TexAgs Radio. You can find his work on Buckeye Huddle. So appreciate that. OB, let's do this. We got about 5 minutes left in the segment. Let's go through our pick 6 because we typically try to do it in this segment, and we had the interview. So let's go into it. By the way, I want to point out last week we both went 3-3, tied for last, but that's okay. Steve McKinney and Seth McKinney both went, and Billy Liucci, all went 5-1. Rocco Robinson, 6-0.
Wow, that's impressive.
Very impressive.
I don't think I've ever been 6-0.
Hannah, can you give us the games? Can you be so nice to do that for us?
I would love to.
It is on the bottom of the rundown,
Yes.
and let's try to knock it out because the first one is very intriguing to me, Olin Buchanan.
Which one is that?
We have number 3 Michigan at number 10 Penn State. And let's see, Michigan is favored by 4.5.
Yeah, I'll take Michigan.
I'm taking Michigan too.
Yeah,
they got the Tony Stark goggles on.
I saw, I saw Penn State against Ohio State, and they're just not a very good offensive team.
I thought that. Let me go ahead and just make sure I make this disclaimer. They are in a way better place than A&M football is, but they're the kind of team that I thought was going to make it this year to the college football players. And by the way, they still have a chance.
Still might,
right? But I think I've seen this song and dance before, and I think they lose again.
Of course, Michigan hadn't played anybody.
They haven't.
Penn State will far and away be the best team they played so far.
Yep, but I agree with you. I think it's going to be Michigan. Next one.
Number 8 Alabama is at Kentucky, and Alabama is favored by 10.5.
Could be a trap game, but I'll take Alabama anyway.
Yeah, I think that.
Playing good ball.
Yeah, I think they win by double digits comfortably, and they're just getting better. You know what they are? They're coached well.
Well, they really are. And they realized a problem with their offense and kind of changed it and decided, hey, we're going to tailor our offense to what our quarterback does best.
The mark, and by the way, this is Nick Saban we're talking about, right? So it's not surprising. He hasn't lost his fastball. In fact, I think he's evolved.
Added a curveball.
He's added a curveball, right? He made sure his staff found ways to maximize their quarterback's potential.
If their staff, if his staff isn't performing, he cuts them loose and goes find somebody who will.
Yep, he sure does. Next game.
I'm excited for this one. Number 13 Tennessee and number 14 Missouri. Missouri's favored by 1.5.
I'm going to take Missouri, and I don't even believe it.
Really?
Yeah. But they're at home. They're playing. They play.
Isn't Burden supposed to be out?
Is he? I haven't heard that.
I thought
if I've got that information, then I may change my pick.
Let's see.
I haven't heard that.
I'm going to look it up as we speak. Continue
but
talking.
I just look at the talent, and I'm thinking, overall, it's not that great. I like their receivers.
2 days ago, Eli Drinkowitz concerned about Luther Burden's status versus Tennessee.
Okay, I'll take
questionable for the game.
I'll take Tennessee then. I think you got to have. You know what? I already said it. No take backs. I'm going with Missouri.
But you took one back, and then you took another one.
Yeah,
back.
but
you're going with the original.
I'm going to go with Missouri because that was my. No takebacks.
I'm going Missouri.
Oh, okay.
I think even at home with the questionable status, maybe a little gamesmanship going on, I'm saying Mizzou.
Okay. I do like Theo Weiss, too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Next
up, number 18 Utah at number 5 Washington. Washington's favored by 9.5.
Washington. I'm taking all the favorites.
Why are we doing the exact same thing? And look, Utah's a team that I think can keep this game close.
Who'd they play last week? Was it Oregon that just took them to the woodshed?
Yes.
Now, Oregon plays better defense than Washington, but I look at Washington, Oregon, and they're almost the same team. So, and I think they just have too much explosiveness for Utah.
Oregon beat them 35-6, and Utah was at home.
Yeah.
So
I'll go Washington.
Oh, and that was a couple weeks ago. Last week was they took Arizona State to the woodshed, 55-3.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah. All right, so we're in agreement there. We're gonna go with Washington. All right, next.
All right, number 9, Ole Miss at number 2, Georgia. Georgia's favored by 10.5.
It's just a freaking favorite show here
Yeah,
today.
Georgia.
Good God.
Because I rarely win when I take the underdog in the points, so I'll just take the favorites. It's in Athens, right?
Yeah.
You know they haven't lost in Athens since 2019.
Is that right?
The last time Georgia won in Athens, or I'm sorry, lost in Athens, was to South Carolina in overtime with Will Muschamp as the coach at South Carolina.
Wow.
And now he's the defensive coordinator at Georgia.
Co-defensive coordinator? Is that
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take Georgia.
I am taking Georgia as well. I expect them to do what they do, which is in these games that matter. Although these are a couple of games in a row that matter, I think they roll.
Yeah, I'm like Ray Charles. I got Georgia on my mind.
Georgia on your mind. Would it make you feel any better if Ole Miss? No, it wouldn't.
No.
Next one, Hannah.
All right, finally, Mississippi State at Texas A&M. A&M is favored by 18.5.
I think we're both going to agree on this one.
Yeah, 18.5.
A&M's winning this game, I think, right? But they're not winning by 18.5.
Well, because I don't know who the quarterback is.
If you knew Max Johnson was healthy and your starting quarterback, that would still be a hard number to believe.
Yeah.
I mean, can they? Of course. They can do a lot of things.
I wish we could go under or over on the score, but I'll take the 18.5 points. A&M wins. I'm telling you, they're not. It's bad, but it ain't that bad, right?
Yeah.
It ain't lose to Mississippi State bad, but it's bad. But 18 points? Are you going to promise me A&M? You know what? The offense saw some improvement last week, right? But again, are we absolutely certain that Max Johnson's going to play?
We're not. And if he does play, how banged up is he?
Yeah. So is Le'Veon playing? I think so.
But we don't know.
So I gotta say I'm going to go with the 18.5 point. It's 18.5, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you this question.
So 28-10, I still lose.
Right.
So
what is possible? Somebody just waved. What is possible? How many points do you think is possible for this Mississippi State team without Will Rogers?
Without Will Rogers?
To score on A&M's defense? 7, 3, 10? What do you think is possible?
Possible, probably 17.
Okay. Likely. How about likely?
7.
Okay.
Well, here's the problem. Is that offensive A&M going to give Mississippi State short field?
Right.
But and you know, again, at some point, and I hate to be this guy that's just piling on, but at some point, you got to factor in the coaching deal. Like, I'm going to figure out what A&M does defensively at times. I think helps out their opponent. You know, I'm going to put Malik Sela or Fidel Diggs or LT Overton. I'm going to have them dropping back in pass coverage, and it makes no sense. But they're going to do that. I mean, if I want to go 8 guys in pass coverage, put another DB back there. You think your DB can't cover better than your defensive end, who, by the way, is running backwards just to try to get into coverage? I mean, things like that just don't make sense to me. So maybe I have to factor in some extra points from Mississippi State just by figuring A&M will, by scheme wise, will do something that doesn't make sense and help them score.
All right, we better hit a break because we still got a Ryan Aggieland to get into, and that's what else do we have? Bank on it. We still got a bank on it. All right, so we'll hit a break. We'll come back with that next on TexAgs Radio. Back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The final segment of the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looked so good with Maroon U. It's time to bank on it, presented by Vera Bank. Authentic, relationship-based banking built for real life. Go see Joel Jackson and the team. You can learn more at verabank.com. Olin, what are you banking on?
Okay, I am banking on the Texas A&M defense holding Mississippi State to less than 267 yards.
Give me the reason behind that number.
Why 267?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the deal. So I looked it up, and I looked at their games against Power 5 competition, and A&M average has held their Power 5 opponents to 69 yards below their season average. Okay. So I look at Mississippi State, and they're averaging 335 yards a game. So I subtract 69 from that, and I come up with a 266. But, got to give some wiggle room there. So
right.
So 267.
267. Okay. In a year that there's been a lot of unknowns or knowns that are not good, my bank on is going to be super simple. I bank on guys that I count on. I count on Anaya Smith and Edge Cooper every week to come and bring the business. So Shamar Turner brings it, right? Like there's certain and I know that's Captain Obvious, but at this point of the season, that's what I can bank on.
I'm with you on that. I like that.
Yeah, I want. Sometimes I try to think of somebody that like I'm going to bank on that typically you don't think about, right? Like that's usually my style. Hey, Noah Thomas is going to have a big game,
and he might.
Yeah, I'm banking on. I'm just going to keep it easy, guys. I know Anaya Smith, when he's out there, is going to bring it 100 miles an hour.
All the time.
And Edge Cooper is too.
All the time.
Yeah.
I think Noah played really hard last week.
He did.
And so did Janae Walker.
Janae Walker, hey, let's
played
go.
Hard.
I want people to want to be out there and make plays. So let's do it. Thank you very much, OB.
Bet.
When we come back on TexAgs Radio, a little more Aggie basketball. Tom Schuberth is going to join us. The coach is going to break it down. We'll also do around Aggie Land and around 9:20. Billy Liucci in studio. That and more at TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but since Nick called me out on the chat, we are playing basketball today. And we figured out we'll just play to 5. And I sometimes know how an Aggie football game is going to end. I can already tell you how the basketball game is going to end. It's going to end 0-0 with a lot of fouls, probably a pulled hamstring by me, but good times at wherever we end up going. Might be Legends. It might be a covered park. We'll figure that out. But that's happening today. So I've said it out loud. It has to happen. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Rollo Insurance Studios. Time for Around Aggieland presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website, normandystatebank.com. Let's go to Kay Nagley.
Good morning, David. I actually have some good news as many student athletes in high school signed their national letters of intent this week. A&M had 24 athletes sign, including 2 men's basketball players, a women's basketball player, 7 soccer athletes, and then 10 softball athletes. One of those softball athletes, want to give a shout out, is my little cousin, who has decided to come play softball. She was a pitcher.
Get 'em!
Della Jasinski is her name. I was very excited when she told me she was committed originally, and then of course whenever she signed this past weekend. So
fantastic news. Love it.
Shout out to Della. And then as well, men's golf added 2, and then men's tennis and women's tennis also added 1 signee each. So heck yeah for everybody that signed this weekend or over this week. It was awesome to always have more Aggies. Back on the football train after suffering a 9th consecutive road loss, Texas A&M is back at Kyle Field to face Mississippi State for a night game. Finally, you can catch all the action on ESPN at 6:30 if you cannot make it to Kyle. Also today, we have some men's basketball planned. They have a big game over at Ohio State in Columbus. That is a quadrant 1 level game versus Ohio State tonight. And then the action is going to be on Peacock, a little bit of a different streaming service, but if you have it, make sure to support your Aggies. We will also have a live thread going to follow all the action. Last night, women's basketball looked pretty impressive. I cannot lie. I was there watching a trio of 3 transfers: Lauren Ware, Aisha Kabali, and India Rogers. They are all came from other programs, but pretty successful. They combined for 44 points in the Aggies' season opening win. And then Joni Taylor and her squad will return to Reed Arena on Sunday to face North Texas. That is at 2. And then Aggie soccer, for the 28th time in 29 years, G. Guerreri is leading his soccer team to an NCAA tournament berth. They will play Colorado tonight at Ellis Field, 7 p.m. If you are in College Station, make sure to pack Ellis and support those Aggie soccer girls. Some baseball news. We have quite a bit today. Texas A&M announced that in 2025, baseball's official permanent opponents will be Texas and LSU. That will be starting in 2025 when Oklahoma and Texas are in the Southeastern Conference. Some volleyball. Texas A&M will head on the road to face Missouri. That game is tonight at first service set for 6 p.m. And then equestrian, don't have the noises, but the number 4 team will welcome number 2 Auburn to College Station as they will kick off today at 1 p.m. to start their fall, or to conclude their fall slate. So quite a bit going on, and I know we have some excitement around basketball, which is always good.
Thank you very much, Kay.
Of course.
Just finding out, Billy Liucci is joining us on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Tom Schuberth is on hold for a moment. Let's get to the hotline and talk to Billy. Billy, good morning, buddy. Hello, Billy? Hello? Going once. Billy.
I'm on. Don't hang up, you weirdo.
That's no way to start the show. How are you, buddy?
I thought I was talking to no one. You're like, going once, going twice, so. I'm good. How are you, David?
I'm good, buddy. I'm not used to you 9:04. I love it.
Well, I mean, it's usually 9:20, and I didn't know what was going on, so I just said I'll call in on my way, because sometimes I get confused with these 9:20 starts, like, does he have an early guest or not? So then I checked the little tweet y'all put out, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to call in while I'm sitting in traffic.
We have Tom Schuberth on hold. Do you want me to have him call back?
No.
Okay.
No. Go get Tom on, and while I sift through Wellborn traffic, because we'll be able to put a man on Mars before they can fix this road. I'm sure of it. I'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right.
I'm going to listen to Sherberth.
All right. Thank you very much, Billy. Schubert, yep. Appreciate you. Billy Liucci on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. I now go to the other Brian Foley Law Hotline, where we're joined by the coach, Tom Schubert, who is wearing a coat. He's looking presidential. He's looking like a man about town in beautiful Los Angeles. Tom, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, David.
How are you, man?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks. I appreciate you having me on. Look forward to talking about the game coming up.
Hey, man, I've been loving your write-ups, getting ready for these games. It's been really fun to read and see your insight to the teams A&M is going to be playing. And as there's more data on these teams as the year goes on, it's going to even be more impressive. One of the things that I noticed was you think this is going to be a very physical game against Ohio State. Why do you expect it to be such a physical game?
Well, first of all, the tradition of the Big Ten, as you know, is super physical. I mean, every team in the Big Ten, they have players that probably could play football for most teams. But in particular, with our team, A&M, if you give them space and room and you don't bump into them and take shooters out of their rhythm, they're going to have a tough night. I know Ohio State, I actually talked to some staff members. They're super worried. So they know they've got to be physical. And A&M's physical. You know, for an SEC team, I don't think there's anybody else, the 14 teams, that plays more physical basketball than we do. Now, we're not the tallest team, but we're certainly got the bodies and the athletes to compete with anybody. So I think it's going to be one of those games where I refer to it as a chess match, where each coach is going to try to figure out how to take the other team out of their rhythm. As you noticed, the first game for us, one of the things I said that I thought was our Achilles heel in years past playing inferior teams is we have some lapses sometimes where we take 2 or 3 minutes off and we let a team get back in the game. And that's what happened to us Monday night when we played Commerce. We were up 20-7. The next thing you look up 2 minutes later, it's 20-18. They went on an 11-0 run. We can't have that happen against great teams, or we're going to probably lose the ball game. So I don't think we'll do that. I think Ohio State's going to really get into us. They play man-to-man defense like we do most of the time. They don't really change up, but they're doing a great job of taking away strengths of other teams.
How concerned are you with the front court, considering there wasn't that much splash in the first game? The lack of, Julius is obviously not with the team right now, and other issues. Are you concerned about it in this kind of matchup, the way the front court? What do you expect from them? Better way of phrasing it.
I'm not, David. I was impressed with how we handled the game Monday night. I mean, we're a balanced team. I mean, that's the worst team an opponent likes to play, and that's what Ohio State is. They have 4 starters back from a team that only finished 16-19, but they were better at the end of the year. They had one of their best players is a transfer from Minnesota, that Jamison Battle, that was their leading scorer. So he's added into that mix. And then they had a great signing named Scotty Middleton that they think is going to be their best player, but he's a freshman. He comes off the bench. So, no, I think we can score inside. I'm impressed with our big guys. Don't complain. They just go to the boards. And, David, I don't know if you've noticed, but over the last this particular game and even the Texas Tech game, I watched that game on tape, and then the games towards the end of the year. Have you noticed how we're tipping balls out when we can't get 2 hands on it? That's like an art that a lot of teams are doing in the NBA, as well as some of the major teams in college. So I think you'll see us getting more offensive rebounds throughout the season because of that technique. So Ohio State's got big bodies. They're bigger probably than we are as far as girth and so forth. So you'll see a lot of that take place. What we did Monday night, we got every one of those balls. I was kind of disappointed in Commerce. You come in there undermatched. You should be hustling as hard as Texas A&M is. And that we got so many offensive rebounds, or just we beat them to every 50-50 ball on the court. And for like a Southland team, that can't happen. But give credit to the Aggies. That's their number one strength. They just compete, and they're tenacious the entire 40 minutes.
Talking to Tom Schubert here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Tom, to me, and look, I'm not. This is eyeball simple analysis of A&M basketball, right? But I'm going to say a couple things that they do well, and you take it and run with it. A&M success route, right? For them to be successful in individual games throughout the season. Tough rebounding, tough defense, get to the line. Take it from there.
You said it. I mean, I think those are the three things that made them an NCAA team last year and an impossible out when you don't bring your A game as an opposition. They're hard to beat. I told you I went to practice. I was sold on them. Now, I may have to eat my words. I mean, we're going to lose some games, but they're not going to beat themselves. The thing that I love is that we added shooting to our team this year. You know, with the addition of Jace Carter and Eli Lawrence, those two in particular. We talked about Hayden Hefner getting better. I mean, he had a tremendous game Monday night. I think we talked about him getting stronger. If he had one weakness in his 3 prior years, I think it was just his body. He wasn't accustomed to, playing real physical, but he was tremendous. So I think we have a really good team. If we lose to Ohio State, it's not the end of the world. Credit to the Aggies for scheduling these tough games. I mean, I read some of the things on TexAgs yesterday, and I didn't realize that it was so far along in the season before we had a literally true road game. So it's a credit to Buzz that he's willing to go out and play these good teams. And a credit to Ohio State as well. You know, they're trying to beef their schedule up. So if they have like a 500 or a little above year, the selection committee will look at their strength of schedule as well.
So when you talk to the coaches and the staff, right, and I know that you can't give too much info from what they share with you, but just do they feel like they're going to be pretty good? Is that the vibe? Like, yeah, we've got the ingredients. Because I know we as fans and analysts see, hey, look at all the returners and yada, yada, yada. How do they kind of see it internally, in your opinion?
Absolutely. David, before the season, they were super excited. They thought this was one of their best teams. Their coach has been there 6 years. This is his 6th season. They felt like this could be their best team. I think they were worried after, barely beating Oakland. But Oakland played zone the entire game. I know Buzz will play some zone. I haven't talked to the coaches, so I don't know their strategy. But I know Buzz will switch his defenses. Oakland gave them a game all the way to the end. I mean, they could have easily lost it. But Ohio State, 2 of their key guys battle that we talked about from Minnesota and Middleton. That was their first time out. They actually scrimmaged Dayton in a ball game and beat Dayton pretty good. And Dayton has a nice club. And so Ohio State thought they were going to have a good year. But I know they're super, super worried about the Aggies. I'm so looking forward to the game because other than being physical, I think it'll be a tempo game, David. I don't think there'll be a ton of possessions just because I know how they operate. They're very they don't like to turn the ball over. And the Aggies don't turn it over either, and either does Ohio State. So I think it's going to be one of those games where second opportunities and then who makes the most threes. And I think we have a much greater chance of doing that than the Buckeyes do.
Tom, let's wrap it up with this question. The Dexter Dennis role, we only had him for a year, but that year he was so impactful. He's a true Aggie, no doubt about it. We love seeing that he's having success at the next level. Just who takes over that role? Because we've heard different names. It could be Eli, it could be Jace, it could be a conglomeration. How do you see that role kind of playing out this year?
Well, after one game, I'd go Jace Carter would probably be the logical pick. But again, what I love about the Aggies, they have so many weapons. And I used to, when I was coaching, I used to have a hero of the game. And we'd actually give an award. It might be a free meal or something. And I love to spread that around. And I think this year, if the Aggies play 31 regular season games, I'll bet you we'll have 8 or 10 guys that are the hero of the game, and several of them will be obviously coming off the bench. So it may be an Eli Lawrence one time, and maybe a Hayden Hefner, Jace Carter, or whatever, or maybe an unknown. And that's what makes good teams great teams, is that you have that depth and they all rely on one another. There's no individuals, and when my conversations with you, I very, very seldom bring up Wade Taylor and Radford. And those are the 2 preseason picks because you know what you're getting in them. So it's going to be an exciting year, I think, because we have so much depth. And this is obviously the most complete team that Buzz has had in his 5 years.
Excellent stuff, my friend. Thank you, Tom, for breaking it all down with us. We're looking forward to a great game.
Thanks, David.
Appreciate you. Tom Schubert there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline here on the program. All right, guys, let's do this. We'll hit a break. Billy's actually already in the building, working the phone, saying hi to people, doing what Billy does. So we'll get him here in studio in about 25 minutes. I'm kidding. We'll get him here in studio in a few minutes. Right now, we're talking about the Association of Former Students. Pass It Back Day coming up next week. Make sure you're ready for that. We'll have it all over the air here on TexAgs Radio. Also, if you are a sponsor or a vendor and you're looking for opportunities to promote your brand in front of Aggies, well, hello. Call our good friends there at the Association of Former Students. They have great events all year long that you can be a part of, like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo Gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of people, so it is so fun to be a part of. And there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of all the attendees with both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. You have title sponsor naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition, and social media posts, and much more. Also, guys, there's advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on all options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. Welcome back in. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2 of the program. Billy is here. We think we'll get him in studio here in a moment. And look, I spent the first few minutes of the segment, or the hour, I should say, of the 8 o'clock hour, kind of talking why this game just feels different, just feels weird vibe to it. You can go under, Hannah. It's all good. Just a different vibe to going into this game. And it's, at least I personally, and everybody's got their own way they fan. I know that there's many of you out there that like only want to hear optimism. There's some of you that only want to hear negative talk, right? I just like to tell you how I feel in the moment. And sometimes the emotions get the better of us, right? But I tell you how I see it, and right now how I see it is they got to win this game, obviously. But the only way I feel better is a clean sweep, not the expected result. The expected result for many is a team that, you know, does what they've done the last 2 seasons. You know, like, I guess win some of the games that they're supposed to, and they're supposed to beat Mississippi State. They absolutely are supposed to beat Abilene Christian, regardless if I'm playing quarterback or not, right? That's what's supposed to happen. And then I think most people are like, what is LSU's offense going to do to our secondary? But you got to play the games. And again, that's why the totality of the next 3, to me, this is I would call it the first quarter, but basically the first third of what we need to see. The very first third. And it's got to be a W. And it's got to be a clean sweep throughout. And you got to go do something in your last game of the season that includes 2 back-to-back wins and finish with a 3-game win streak. Get into a better bowl situation just for me to feel like there's going to be hope, a little bit of hope for next year. Because under that scenario, you can discuss, well, hey, you know, you should have Connor back. Hopefully you keep part of your recruiting class. Hopefully not that many guys transfer because they have reasons to believe, right? The other scenario is, I think, you know, there's the apathy part of it. And just with that, Billy Liucci, big smile on your face today. I like when you're happy.
I'm always happy.
Not always when you're walking the stage.
If you are a Marvel comic,
you're gonna call me Dr. Evil?
Would you like to be Marvel or DC? DC's not cool anymore.
Joker's cool, always cool, but I'm not the Joker.
Your character would be Dr. Apathy.
So
you come in and here comes and look, it is a cloudy day, it's a cloudy season, but you come in and it's like dark cloud, and you come in and like you lull people to sleep thinking, well, this guy's very pleasant, he's nice, and then like they don't know that you've wrapped the apathetic tentacles around.
You do realize it depends.
Sounds like a pretty good script.
It's I'd watch it.
But like you come into the town and it's sunshine, and then all of a sudden Nuño comes into TexAgs Radio and it's like 8-4, 5-7.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the last 30 years.
But do you realize
me.
It depends who you ask.
Some people blame me.
Some people think I'm like too optimistic.
Yeah.
And then
just
some
your
people
tone of voice, sometimes you can sound optimistic, but I get that. They do that with me, like, because if I'm not yelling and screaming, I'm being more like matter of fact. It doesn't portray like the anger, but the words are saying what the words are saying, and they'd be saying it either way. Dr. Apathy. I had a buddy that I nicknamed because every time he'd come to my house, he'd screw something up. He'd spill, pee himself in the guest bedroom.
Oh, God.
He's like one of those guys, like drinks too much. You can't. Okay, I shouldn't say that now because he's going to know, even though I'm not going to say his name, he's going to know who I'm talking about.
I think
it's
using
not
the bathroom in your room should limit it to 1, hopefully.
Well, no, it's always something different.
Oh, okay.
So I nicknamed him the Burden. And I think that would be a great like UFC or boxing name.
The Burden.
The Burden. Ryan, the Burden, Browninger, the Burden. Doesn't that sound like a good?
I can see that.
Like a burden on his opponents.
Sorry.
All right, Olin.
But
he's going to be a burden. I think he might be a burden on that Georgia secondary this weekend.
That is a total Olin line. But every bad guy has an origin story of why they went bad.
And yours
right?
Yours
and
is
mine
A&M quarterback injury.
Is A&M football because
it turned you.
And then there was a thread recently that said, well, hey, ever since Nuño's been at TexAgs, we've been a disaster. And it got me thinking.
They did the same thing to me.
Right.
They forget that the first year I did this, A&M won the Big 12 title. I was like, this is fun. This is awesome.
But I'm trying to present the picture. I'm not even trying. My thing is, go take care of business this week. Go take care of business next week. Go take care of business against LSU. That is the only thing that matters to me at this point when it comes to this particular football season is a clean sweep out. And I can understand why nobody thinks that's going to happen.
I'd like to see that for the kids, for the players,
yes,
and for the coaches that are working hard. But it doesn't change anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's good on the LSU ledger when you want to. I don't. Unless Jaden Daniels doesn't play, because I don't know when you're going to get Max Johnson back. And I'll say this flatly: like I do not expect that we'll see him this weekend with a rib injury and a quarterback. And you've got to look out for. Because Max would probably trot out there and play at any chance he could. You got to look out for his well-being on an injury like that. So I expect to see Jalen Henderson quarterbacking. I do expect them to be pretty healthy elsewhere. I don't know about Evan Stewart. I don't think he's practiced much this week, but the corners are back that they could have used. So they really could have used them last week in Oxford, but they're back in the mix and practicing. And Le'Veon that's not, it was reported, I don't even know where I kept getting texted. It was ACL. It's not. He's available. Like, if he doesn't play this week, then I would say he would definitely be able to play next week if needed, but you're playing Abilene, so maybe
LSU.
Yeah, but he might play tomorrow, actually. I don't think that's a sure thing that he's out. I think Le'Veon Moss is one of those kids, too. I talk about Max. He's the same way. Like, he wants to play. He wants to run the ball. He wants to play. He'll play hurt. I've always heard, like, him last year, they were saying him, McKinley Jackson, Haynes were three kids that, like, you had to kind of tell them, hey, you need to throttle back. Like, you're just making it worse on yourself. And I can ride with those type of guys. Those dudes, guys like Aniyah Smith that's out there competing like he is. I'm obviously leaving guys off. There's more than just that, but dudes like that they need more of them. And at some point, the coaches have the staff and that whole building has to look and say, how do you change culture? I think they changed the locker room. They're playing hard. We saw that right up through Saturday. I thought when they went down to Ole Miss, we talked about it, 14-0, and it appeared 21-0, and then that got called back, and then that was the point where a lot of teams quit on the road against a good team, and I've seen it a million times, and I actually did think this is going to get ugly, and all the credit in the world to everybody over there, and when I say credit to coaches, like, you're not holding them accountable. You're not holding the kids accountable for their mistakes. At the end of the day, it's a win or a loss, and it's a loss. So the record keeps getting worse. The road record keeps getting worse. The SEC record, the Mississippi's record. But credit all them for hanging in there in that fight and getting knocked down. And, it's like boxing, and the whole arena thought it was a knockout, and you get back up and make it make it a 15-round war. They did that. That's great. But culturally, it's the age-old question of, like, the coach, what kind of culture does the head coach create in the building, in the locker room, on the field? And then it becomes, okay, if he does that, at some point it's got to pay off in wins, because I don't care how good it is, it kind of fades. Remember, everyone was just so fired up about the row the boat. What's his name? I've already forgotten his name. PJ Fleck.
Oh, PJ
row the
Fleck,
boat, row the boat. If you don't win enough, you can't flip it. And A&M's chance, I heard you guys talking earlier, and Olin said what do you say was the turning point?
The turning point of the game?
Losing Elko.
Oh, losing Elko.
And I think it was before that.
Yeah,
I think it was your last trip to Ole Miss, because I think you could have flipped it. Where at some point the young guys have to come in and have a bunch of old guys that all they've done is won. And so they command respect, and they say, yeah, this is how we do it. This is how we went. They did it the 1 year, and then the next year they were really staring at 10-2. It was right there in front of them, and you could have gone 9-1, a top 5 finish. You could have gone 11-2, back-to-back New Year's Six, and been 20-3 in 2 years. And I think the culture changes then, because I think that number 1 class that you were in the process of putting together, it might have been a lot better. You win those last 2 games, you go to like a Sugar Bowl and win it. Hell, you might have gotten that one extra corner that you so desperately need right now. You might have gotten, well, I'm looking down in Austin, Texas, and say you might have been able to flip a Kelvin Banks from Oregon instead of Texas doing it, and you might have been able to get Terrence Brooks.
Yeah.
So there's a corner and an old lineman. So who knows? And Harold Perkins. Okay, how about you maybe
you beat
get
LSU
those 3
that year, yeah.
You get those 3. That's your start. That's a starting tackle, a star linebacker to go along with Edgerrin Cooper and a young Torian York, and that desperately needed corner. Even when you signed the number 1 class, you could have gotten it better. But more importantly than that, and maybe you get Anthony Hill the next year because you're just rolling in momentum. They almost flipped it. And more than that, though, it's just guys learning how to win, and that talented freshman group comes in, and it's like, hey, this is how it goes. We've won 20 games in 2 years. We won 2 New Year's Six bowl games. Here are the trophies. Here's how we got there. They couldn't get over, and it was a damn game at Ole Miss. And if this thing doesn't work, and if A&M ultimately changes coaches, which I've said this week on the boards, like I said it prior to Ole Miss, I think that would absolutely suddenly be in play if they didn't win that football game, because I felt like it was just a volatile swing.
Mm-hmm.
And when Kiffin goes out and says what he says, and people start laughing on the game day set, and then you go out and lose, and all those numbers become more and more glaring, and they're staring you in the face. And there is something about losing to the Mississippis. It got Sumlin fired. Those back-to-backs, that 1 year when they were number 4, back-to-back, boom, it kind of went downhill for him and his program after that. And then you open the next year losing to UCLA, and it's over.
Yeah.
That game was one that I felt had the most swing potential. I don't think this game Saturday matters at all into any type of decisions. So if there's ultimately a change, you can go back, and I think you can very specifically circle a pair of dates in Oxford, Mississippi, in 2 games that I know Jimbo and those players feel like they should have, could have, would have won. But that's been the story of the tenure. I would say would be that, and and QB injuries, because this is a giant what if in that regard.
When we come back, Billy, I do want to ask you what you think has been the Achilles heel, if there's like something we can point at, and try to kind of discuss that. We'll hit that. Plus, we do got to talk about the game itself at some point. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. When you go there, we bought a vehicle from Caldwell Country just last summer. It was a great experience. The entire process was awesome. We bought a Chevy Tahoe. We were looking for something for my wife to drive, to be able to go in and out of town, because she goes to Houston and to Austin all the time for work and for kid stuff. So we had to make sure that it was the right vehicle, and they called us up. They said, hey, we got this one for you. Check it out. And, this was after months of me telling them, I'm coming, guys. At some point, I'm coming. They helped me find the right car. And it was at the price point that we had already told them we were looking for, the kind of mileage, the kind of car we wanted, and then the great trade-in value. That's what happens when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. The entire experience is second to none out there, and they hold their staff to very high standards. That's why people repeat business with Caldwell Country Chevrolet, like R.C. Slocum. Repeat business. That is what they do. Small town dealer making dreams come true for the Brazos Valley. Remember, it's about a 15-minute drive, Bronna Caldwell, short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. We got a studio audience. It's fun. We got like 70 people in studio. I mean, maybe not 70, but we got a bunch. It's fun. And, of course, Billy's missing in action. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Hannah Harrison's got some text for us, and I know you've been monitoring the YouTube page as well. So because Billy talked about me having this apathy, right? That, you know, did he call me Dr. Apathy?
Yes,
what he called me?
Yeah, Dr. Apathy. That would be your supervillain name.
Right, and like I own it because I think I represent what many of us are. We're just like, oh man, like, yeah, I think we're gonna win this weekend, but what does it matter? And I feel like that's where we are. So what are the people saying on the text line?
Well, I mean, we have it pretty much split 50-50, people who are apathetic, people who are really, really hopeful still. On the text line,
50-50? No, there's no
I
scientific.
really think it is.
No,
truly.
Okay.
So, do you want do you want to talk positive or do you want to talk apathetic right now? Your choice.
Let's go positive.
Okay. So, what does the offseason narrative look like if they win out and win a bowl? Walker in Houston's asking. He's saying not that it'll happen, but just picturing, just visioning.
Look,
what do you think that would look like?
You got to play the game. So Billy's walking in the studio. Somebody on the text line asks, what does the offseason look like if they do win these next 3 games and a bowl?
Okay, let's play that game.
Vamos a jugar.
What was that?
I mean, let's play this game in Spanish.
Did you say bailamos?
No, I said vamos jugar. Let's
Jugar.
play.
I did know that.
Yeah.
You just said it differently. You know that song Bailamos?
Yeah.
Who
of
sings
course
that?
Enrique Iglesias.
I sing Enrique.
I believe
it's
so.
not as good as his best song is Escape.
Is that in English?
Video with Anna Kournikova. They're
In
running
English?
around.
No song that Enrique sings in English is his best song. Come on. Don't do disservice to the Latin Grammys.
Okay, I'm gonna just keep going. English songs are, in fact, better. By in
English
America,
speaker.
So
Ricky Martin's best song is La Vida Loca?
And half of it's in English.
And the best half is in Spanish.
Okay. I'm
You forgot what you were
distracted
saying.
now.
My question was, or the question,
Macarena,
Walker.
You probably think that's a good song.
Terrible. One of the worst songs
If they go
ever.
4-0.
Yeah. And just what does the
Okay,
offseason feel like?
First of all, I think it's a massive if. I think if Max can't get healthy enough to go on the road to Baton Rouge, play against that offense with Jaden Daniels, and I think your other issue coming up after that will be how many opt-outs you think this team sees in a bowl game. They bailed out of a bowl 2 years ago. They didn't go to one last year. There's not, again, I go back to the word culture. There's not a culture of, hey, this is important. This is an important way to finish out the season. I mean, Jimbo would try to impart that. That's not how that's going to go. So, the only world I see it happening in is because A&M hasn't been blown out this year. And Miami won by 15, but that was a game where the Aggies were a 3rd and 9 stop away from getting the ball back with more than 2 minutes left to tie it. So and that was the closest they've been to being handled. But in SEC play, every single game against an Alabama team that beat LSU pretty handily Saturday, against an Ole Miss team that beat LSU, against Tennessee on the road in front of 100,000. They're right there. So because of that, even though I don't like the specific matchup with LSU, you have to give these guys enough credit to say they can play with anyone. Now, they don't find ways to win the close games. They have not found a way to win a close game yet. Am I right about
You're
that?
right, yeah.
I mean, Arkansas, Auburn. I mean, those were competitive games, but those weren't like pivotal fourth quarter.
We never thought they were going to lose those games.
No. So they haven't won the games that are up for grabs late, there for the taking. And that kind of is how, even on a good night or good day, whatever time that game is, that's how it feels like it would be at LSU. So I have a hard time. If they did that, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it matters.
Really?
No. I think it matters in the head-to-head with LSU and the ongoing smack war between, like, if you can beat them, what would that be, 4 out of 6? That would be significant. But I don't think it matters program trajectory. Because here's the problem, Dave, and this is why, to me, Ole Miss mattered so much. 5-0 is a massive difference. 6-2 in second place in the SEC is a massive difference. Even if you beat Ole Miss and lost to LSU, by the time Texas A&M plays LSU, that game does not matter anywhere outside of College Station or Baton Rouge. It doesn't matter. It has no SEC title implications. It has no national title or playoff implications. It's on rivalry weekend. No one's really, truly paying attention to that game. And then your regular season's over. And we're on to worrying about the playoffs and maybe the New Year's Six at best. Beating Ole Miss would have been far more significant because it would have kept the Wolves at bay. It would have set you up to potentially beat LSU and finish on this terrific winning streak and finish second in the SEC. Now you beat Mississippi State. No one cares outside of College Station and Starkville. Some people in College Station don't care. I think that's wrong. I think you should care when these kids are suiting up and going out playing. And it's an SEC game. I'll never not care about that.
Right.
But being honest, a lot of people won't. A lot of people won't. Sorry, and then you beat Abilene. Nobody gives a flying damn. Is that such a thing? I don't know what that is, but it's better than the alternative. No one gives a flying damn about that one. And then you go to play LSU, and like I said, it's 3 hours and it's done, and nobody's talking about it or thinking about it. So Ole Miss to me was the one, to the person that asked the question, Ole Miss was the one that you needed to win to end with any kind of truly. I'd be thrilled if they went and beat LSU. I'd be proud of them. I'd be
Shit, yeah.
But, and I don't think it's impossible at all. But to do anything noteworthy that moved the needle at all, you had to beat Ole Miss.
Well, Kyle sends in, because what I said earlier in the show was the game matters if the next three, to me, Mississippi State only matters if it's a clean sweep, right? Just beating Mississippi State in the grand scheme of things. Of course, game day, I want us to win by 50. I'm not, but he sends in this game matters, the next game matters, the LSU game matters, life matters, effort matters. Yeah, yes, they matter.
That's fine.
But the vibe, the optimism, the hope comes with the clean sweep, not beating who you're supposed to beat.
I think they all matter. Again,
that's why we keep scoring.
I'm going to these games. I'm sitting there hoping like hell the Aggies win, and I want Jimbo and the staff to win. I want the players to win. I want them to play well and be happy in the locker room. I want one less week of an embarrassing loss for A&M. And I don't mean, again, like, I think we need to get out of this thing, if you're in it, of it's embarrassing to lose to Ole Miss if they're ranked number 10 on the road and you lose the last play. It's embarrassing to lose to Tennessee. I'm pissed they lost to Alabama. Damn it, that's a bad Alabama. No, it's the cumulative. It's the aggregate. It's the never getting over the top. That's the part that you get frustrated, you get embarrassed with. It's that. It's not the individual game. So yeah, I mean, I want to see them go out and win all these games, and I think it's doable. I'd like to see 14 back to go to Baton Rouge.
Right.
I was really actually kind of looking forward to him getting a crack
At them,
in Baton Rouge against his old team, where the last time he was on that field, he beat this team.
Yep.
It would have been, and it might still be, it would be pretty fascinating to watch that. But outside of that, like, I thought he was yes, hell yeah, they matter. And like you said, I'd rather win them than lose them for anything moving forward. Any kind of culture thing benefits from that. But I thought his question was, what does it mean? And in the grand scheme of things, I just think it means they didn't quit, and there'll be a little bit better of a culture of resiliency in that locker room, and that happens every time you pick yourself back up, and that's great. But in terms of like direction, momentum, people taking notice, I don't think it will move the needle at all.
By the way, before we hit a break, I'll read this because it's nice. Dell on the YouTube page says, I'm an Ole Miss fan. I've been listening to you guys for the last 2 years because of the good content. So, hey, we got some Ole Miss.
I love
people,
that.
so,
I love when fans of other schools listen. I had a lot of volunteers come up to me in Knoxville and say that, and it's great. And again, like, I can completely disagree with anything that comes out of Lane Kiffin's mouth. Although the thing yesterday in the audio recording, I'm on his side. I
need more information.
Yeah. But the whole concept of, hey, it's mental health, so that's why I just ignored you as a head coach. And
you still have responsibility.
I would have been, maybe he was prior, a lot more sensitive and say, hey, we need to get you the help you need, but you're not. Football here right now is not for you. And I'm not doing it because of mental health. I'm doing it because you wouldn't take my calls. You no-showed meetings. Anybody else on the team at any point in time, like, that doesn't work. But I think you have to sell that, not sell it, but be honest about it and say, hey, we will help you. We will continue to help you. You don't need football right now.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, based on what, obviously he didn't handle that way. I can disagree with everything Lane Kiffin says and does, and I think he's just over-the-top ridiculous, even though, you know, outside of the $30 million, that thing, there's some kernel of truth, of which is A&M's got everything, and I'm going to give them a hard time because we don't have anything close to what they have, and they still can't win, and I don't get it. If he would just say that, I'd have been like, damn, the
Ain't
guy's
wrong.
right.
Yeah.
But I think and thought, still do, he goes way too far with the personal part of it with Jimbo, who, if you go back and think about it, never said anything about Kiffin until Kiffin
And actually,
made the accusations,
he said
and he hasn't said
clowns.
anything
He
since.
didn't, he didn't say his name.
Well, but we
know.
he went at him because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. Well, I go back at everybody.
Yeah, but right. We do that. I can't be a hypocrite. But at the same time, like I say all the time, Ole Miss, since A&M's joined the SEC, has had some outstanding teams, and they've been a quality program. Over the long haul, they've had some average to not good teams too. They've been a quality program since A&M joined the SEC. And if I'm an Ole Miss person, I'll probably walk around with a chip on my shoulder because everybody thinks of them as kind of a second-tier citizen in the conference. And as far as since I've been in here, some of those Hugh Freeze teams and a couple of these Kiffin teams have been pretty damn good.
Yeah, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with an open segment when we come back. Milliken Reserve Farm to Table Community.
He's gonna think I was saying I'm cryptically saying Kiffin's coming in to be the head coach.
He's not.
I promise I'm not. Dell and the Ole Miss fans and Aggie fans. It's not what I'm saying.
By the way, Milliken Reserve.
Yeah.
Since we're talking mission to build a healthy community. Around. When's the last time you went hiking?
David, I mean, you think you're being slick here 2 weeks ago.
In College Station?
No, I went hiking in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. I knew that.
And after the Colorado hikes, it was nothing. I was like, where are these? What are these? These are like hills. But it was beautiful.
I think it would be a
Fall.
good bonding experience for the TexAgs staff to go hiking at Milliken Reserve. You know, we can video it. We can talk about it. You know, we can, fly a kite together. It could be
I will not fly a kite with anybody here.
Climb trees.
I will not climb a tree.
No. Ride horses.
I would ride a horse.
Okay, there you go. Feed, sheep. I don't think they have those there, but just if they did, we could do that.
She's over here rushing you like you're going through the.
All right, well, it's still Milliken Reserve. It's a great community to go enjoy nature. They got great neighborhoods there as well. Check out the website, millikenreserve.com, millikenreserve.com. That's the website. Go check it out. It's a great place. It's Milliken Reserve. They're playing Bailamos. Oh, they're playing Enrique in the background. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So when, where's the tweet that came at me? Let me see if I can pull it up. Kyle's the one who sent that tweet. Like, every game does matter. It does matter, guys. Absolutely. But the totality is what's going to matter into the off season, right? The totality of those 3 games, how the players in that locker room look at it and the recruits, the only way to really make it feel like a different thing is by winning out. We'll have more in the next hour. Final countdown, the McKinney Brothers next on TexAgs Radio. Here we go. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The final countdown. Seth and Steve McKinney are with us. Guys, I don't know if you heard any of the earlier segment. Billy called me Dr. Apathy.
Oh, why is that?
Because I'm just like...
You've lost it?
I think I lost it a while ago, to be honest with you. Like, to be very honest, like a while ago. But like,
When did you lose that loving feeling? The Tennessee game?
19. Yeah, it might have been the Tennessee game. But I kept on thinking, all right, but there's still another benchmark out there. All right, well, we got Ole Miss. Yes, technically we still have LSU, but that's just.
Yeah, LSU would just be a saving grace at this point.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's been that kind of season, you know. It's one of those where you had opportunities in front of you to, you know, kind of take that next step, and they just couldn't do it for whatever reason. A lot of times it was just them, you know, hurting themselves, not being disciplined enough or making mistakes and not capitalizing.
About you guys in '96. What are you talking
about?
Billy's always good for that. He's always good for that.
That's a full episode.
I'm projecting because I've had to sit through too many of them.
Dude, I'm not the guy that comes on here. I'm not the former player that comes on here and just bashes the team. You know?
I'm not either. By the way, I am not either. By the way,
people want.
You're trying to say you're trying to act like it's me.
Seth got so defensive, bro. No, Seth's not.
I got defensive. I think you got defensive.
Well, I mean, Seth's just saving it for Twitter.
Twitter guy.
Seriously though, like everybody's frustrated. So what I think everybody appreciates about you guys is you call it like it is. You can be pretty blunt about things, players, coaches, coaching strategies, how the season's going. But yeah, you're not. I don't think anything you guys do is bashing. Some people want bashing. That's not how we do it.
Yeah, seems like a lot of people want that.
Well, it gives you that pound of flesh. I mean, it's just like dating back to the olden days. They had pitchforks and torches, and they'd go up the hill, and everybody would storm to the person's house and try to drag them out. And I mean, so it's human nature.
Yeah, I guess so. It's odd to me. Like people crave it. Like they want you to be negative, and I'm like, why? What's the point of that? Like we see what's happening. It's not like they're not trying.
Right.
I mean, they're working hard. If you watch that second half and you came away with any feeling other than they played their heart out and you could tell that they haven't given up and they wanted to win, then you're choosing to believe the other, because that's all I saw Saturday.
But that I would attribute that to honestly to our players, because they flipped the script from the first half to the second half, and whatever you could go to town on the first half, but the second half, they, like you said, they were out there, everything they had, and they turned it around. The offensive line was playing a lot better. Max was playing a lot better, and they executed well, but they just couldn't get it done.
I mean, dude, it sucks they came up short, but Billy, I know you guys have probably talked about it all week. You went into that game with a defense that had both your starting cornerbacks out against
no one was planning for that one.
Against the team that throws the ball down the field. You knew it was going to be a problem.
Not only that, but both your starting corners out, and to where you were playing two guys that had essentially really not combined maybe 30 meaningful reps of college football.
Right. I mean, you were so behind the eight ball going into that game. The fact that you were ahead with 4 minutes to go, we should all be like surprised by that.
I can't believe they got me though to a point where I was like, we're winning this thing.
And that was the dagger.
Because I was like, with that defense on the field, and I know they struggled against Ole Miss Saturday, and I do think DJ Durkin hasn't, even with those corners out, and that's a big part of it. But going back to last year and looking at Tennessee, which they bent but didn't break, but Tennessee dropped at least one, if not two, touchdown passes. But I do think there's a schematic where it's a matchup problem against his style of offense for his style of defense. And now other teams, he suffocates, chokes them out, and they've done Durkin is not the problem. They've done a hell of a job this year.
Yeah, defense.
But on Saturday, I was like, it hadn't been an easy day. I just felt like A&M was going to get a sack or a forced fumble or an interception.
That's what they needed.
Yeah, and I thought they were. I really did, and they couldn't do it. Now, what you were saying, I wanted to go back to. I think this year you have to break this whole analysis and kind of, if you're trying to hand down a judgment on all things Aggie football right now. I think you have to separate this season and the last 6 seasons. I think this season has been one of frustration, near misses, really bad breaks, and again, like this team, you're like, damn, they literally just took number 10 to the last play, and they came back, and they did it with backup quarterback, and they did it with 2 corners that had never played, and they took 10 to the last play on the road.
Go ahead.
Oh, but I'm saying, so this season has been one where you almost like, I feel bad for it. I feel bad for the players. I feel bad for the coaches. I feel bad like they're coming so close, and it's like every week in some way the deck gets stacked against them more, and they're still getting right there, and it's frustrating as hell. But I think you have to look at the whole 6 years to say, how does this ever turn around? How, like, explain to me the path to get through this and turn this thing around, because it's hard to see it when you take the totality of the 6 years. And I know there was a point where we almost saw it flip, and we were talking about it earlier. There was a point 2020 into 2021 where it almost flipped. It was very promising at the beginning in year one, but it didn't happen, and the arrow has absolutely been pointing down since. But it's tough.
No, you're right, but it can still flip, is what I choose to believe, because they were so close this year. They're not getting blown out. They should have won every game they've been in this year, right? That's why we're frustrated. But Seth, it can flip. First of all, we got to win on the road. We got to get that monkey off our back. It's ridiculous that we can't win on the road. And it's not like we're playing bad teams on the road either. However, if you want to get to where we want to get, you better change something in the way you approach road games.
They don't sound interested in changing.
That's what you need to, though. You
going
have
back to it, like you're talking about this frustration, and the one season I go back to is, and I don't know why. I mean, there's a lot of seasons you could point to, but this is like 2011, probably the most frustrating football season in A&M history, was when you had good teams go out there, but they couldn't win. They got up. It's a different story, but similar theme.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. We can't win the games that we should easily have won, and we're not doing that. And, yeah, you could point to injuries. You could do all the things that we just mentioned, but it just all adds up to an unreal level of frustration for this season.
I remember something when I really was down on A&M football, and like people was, why did you say this then? Well, I don't want to come in here and throw an active, but it made me just go, ugh. It was that 2011 season, and A&M was losing a ton of close games.
Yeah, that was rough.
Close. And there was a game, and there was a guy who was right in the center of kind of why A&M lost a game. Okay. Road game. Team gets back late at night. And it was like you would have had to have raced to get to the bars by the time that was over with. And this was back, and I was out. You know, people say I'm out every night. They don't know me. Not
anymore.
But I was out there, and a small group of players showed up in their warm-ups after a loss. I'll say the game was after a loss at K-State, where it was overtime. They were not good, and they raced to get out and make it to the bars by 2 a.m. And to me, that was like what I was talking about earlier. Like, how does a culture change? And it's like, it's kind of a chicken. And at first, I think it's the head coach. And what kind of culture do you create? And ultimately, it comes back on Jimbo. But also, you can only do your thing as a coach. Y'all probably have had coaches where this is in play. You can only do your thing for so long before the message gets stale, because it's not paying off in the form of wins. Yeah. And that's where I fear is these guys aren't getting the payoff. And it's not just the coach's fault. They're to blame as well. Oh, absolutely. It's a coach player, it's a team thing. But to me now, it's like, where's the
No, it's a valid
payoff?
point. I mean, there is a point you get to as a player where you've heard the same speeches over and over for 3 or 4 years. And if you're not winning games and it's not getting better, then there starts to become that, I don't want to say apathy, but just that lack of faith.
Yeah.
And, losing's a habit just like winning is.
Lack of faith in your coaches, your teammates.
Yeah. And so that's why winning a game like Ole Miss, and even winning the rest of this season out and beating LSU and going winning a bowl game, like the only way that we're going to get things back on track for 24 is if we can change that culture, that mindset of, yeah, this does pay off. We are winning. We are on a winning streak. Let's carry that over into the next season. So, yeah, there's not a lot to play for. You know, I get the apathy if you're a fan. However, we have to believe that these last 3 games really matter, because I think they do going into the next season.
That's all you can do is hope and believe that they do matter. And if you want to go down that road, you got to hope and believe that that matters to the players on this team, and it matters to the players in the portal, and it matters to these high school kids, because that's what really matters, is keeping your team and then getting new talent on the team. And if it matters to those kids, that's all that really matters about this deal, because the coach – anyways, that's the big issue.
You got to – in 2023, it's always been this way, but now more than ever, you also got to keep your donors hopeful and engaged. Because imagine going to them now and saying, hey, we need to really ramp up things on the NIL front. And they're going –
For what?
For what? Like what? Like wow. I felt like
I've done that. Yeah,
we've already done it.
Where's that guy?
And that's not just an A&M thing. And David and I have talked about this. This is a college football 2023 thing. You think I heard TCU had about, and it's not going to sound like a lot, but it is a decent amount. I heard they had like $5 million across the board for their NIL, like all sports.
Yeah.
Coming off that national title game run, and they're like, we're not doing this again. They stink. And they're already like, that was too much for my comfort level as it was. I'm not doing this again now. For what? 1 year after their team played for the Natty, and there's already a distaste.
Yeah.
That's going to happen everywhere in the country that's not winning at the highest of level, and it's going to happen here. And
Well,
people have to, you know, there's going to be a group of great Aggies that really step up and make sure it doesn't happen, or it will. And that's everywhere in college football. And the big winner right now are the Texas Longhorns, because they dodged losing to a miserable U of H team that they should have lost to. Terrible call. And they dodged losing to a mid Kansas State team because of a terrible coaching decision. But guess what? If they were sitting with 3 losses right now, a lot of people over there would be like, what the hell are we doing? We're not even going to play in the Big 12 title game. All this money we spent, what's this coach doing with this talent?
They're not apathetic.
Just like
at
that,
all.
it flips.
Yeah.
They're not apathetic at all. But
I just told you why, though.
No, I know that. That's what I'm saying.
Like that.
That's what I'm saying, is that I feel like the big fear is that we are. And you were right when you said, like, the people that should be the most livid are the ones that are active in this. And it's a big deal. Like, that's real money. Like, that's real life, big time money that these guys have worked their butts off for. And they're doing that for the benefit of like all Aggies everywhere, right? So we should just it's got to be frustrating for them. And at what point does that stop? I mean, I don't know. I hope it doesn't.
Can you tell Nick to tell them to be quiet back there?
Hey, Nick, can you tell them to be quiet in the back?
Thanks, Dave.
You got it.
I mean, they're like, they don't, no matter how many times we say this, they don't understand that, like, yelling back there.
It's distracting.
Yeah. Sorry, Seth. I was trying to listen to you.
So you said something, and it kind of struck me for a second, Steve. This year does feel better than last year. Like, with my eyes, I can see it. This is a better team.
No doubt.
For sure.
But last year ended in these same kind of losses. 3-point games, backup quarterback. And I think that's why I've hit a point. I'm like, we did this story last year. A&M made some necessary changes. You brought in a new offensive coordinator. You probably should have made some other changes as well.
Yeah.
Yet, you still got another quarterback hurt. You've lost potentially 2 this year, right? Like, it's the same story with a little bit better window dressing.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I feel the frustration. I know a lot of the hardcore fans are very frustrated by that and point that out a lot and talk about it a lot. But, I mean, how much of that is just being snake bit? How much of that is bad luck? How can luck change overnight in one season, in one game? I mean, you see it happen around college football.
I was hoping that blocked field goal was going to be that for us.
It could have been, but I'm saying, like, that's to me, that's being snake bit.
Yeah.
Like when you block the guys up front, that wasn't offensive line, and the kicker kicks it 1 inch too low because you got a 6'7" guy, gets a fingertip, a fingernail on it maybe. I mean, it was 3 yards short. I mean, that's That's bad luck.
Yeah.
You know,
It's bad luck.
It's execution, but it's bad luck also, because he probably could have kicked that same kick 10 times, and 9 times that little fingernail wouldn't have touched the ball, but in that one time it did. So, you know, do you throw the baby out with the bathwater? You know, that's where we're at right now. And to me, we're too close to do that. Like, I know it's frustrating, but man, we're so close. And if just the right culture develops over this offseason, the right guys get in there and go, we should have won every game last year. That was some bull crap. We're not doing that again. And you fix that mindset and beat Notre Dame next year early on, and then what happens after that?
I'm with you. I agree that it's possible to do that. My biggest fear in the whole thing is what I mentioned earlier, is that I love it. Let's go do all that. Let's win it. Let's do that. Let's get unsnake bit. But how are you going to keep these kids on this team and motivated? That's like, it's a different world. It's even different than the NFL. That's Jimbo's
job at this point.
I felt like, though, here's my like, unlike a lot of people, when you're saying something that's fairly positive, I'm not doing this. You know, just visibly just showing that, hey, I disagree, and I'm going to show this guy up that's trying to make a well thought out point. But I am going to say, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I think it would have to involve, obviously, beating LSU. Like, if you could beat LSU in a bowl game and beat Notre Dame in 3-game stretch, you're talking about things turning around in a hurry. I don't know if it gets there, because here's my only counter to that. I would say, I thought we did this last year. We beat LSU handily, thumped them with your young freshman quarterback to end the year.
At home, though.
And every it's true. It would be bigger over there.
We're two different teams.
But
on the road
everyone
and
comes in there and says the right stuff, and they meant it, these players. They said, yeah, we knew we were better than we showed last year. We knew we could have won all those games, and we're the reason and you ended on the highest of high notes, and the carryover. And let's be honest. Now, I think A&M with Connor Wigman is at, what are they in the SEC right now? They're 3-3. I think at worst they're 5-1 with Connor. Those games were so damn close anyway. And Max was really good against Ole Miss, but I think they win 2 of those 3, if not all of them. Forget that it's Connor, just a dynamic quarterback that gets rid of the ball quickly, can make up at times for some poor blocking or some unchecked. But reality-wise, they did get beat by 15 points by a very average Miami team with him at quarterback, because the O-line didn't protect. He got hammered.
In all fairness, I mean, we look at that score. I mean, let's go back and watch the game.
Yeah.
I mean, the game was a lot closer than the score
That's
indicated.
we were talking about that earlier.
You know, it really was. I mean,
we
gave him a lot of points.
My point,
at the end.
though, is the first thing someone would say would be, well, yeah, but the quarterback that beat LSU didn't play. Well, he did play against Miami, and he played well. Like, that was a gutsy effort. He threw a lot of yards, but you weren't able to overcome an average Miami team with him. This season is so frustrating, because I could take you, and I've talked it to death, but that little stretch, like 1 first down against Miami before halftime, is a 10 or 14-point swing. 1 yard from me to you on 4th down, is another 7 points. That game was so cool. We know about, Alabama, all the different plays that could have made it happen. Tennessee, Ole Miss, obviously there, a fingertip, or you're going to overtime. But it's 4 losses.
But
right?
let me just throw this in there, Billy, because I would argue, and I bet Seth would agree with me, that probably one of the biggest determining factors of how a team is going to win or be successful is on the offensive line.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
And I would also argue that the most successful offensive lines are what, Seth? Veterans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
How many offensive lines do you see with 4- and 5-star talents as freshmen and sophomore go out and just run through a season?
Oh, it doesn't happen. It's just you just can't do it at that position.
So what are we last year on the offensive line? What are we this year on the offensive line? Freshmen. This year we're a bunch of sophomores and freshmen. Yeah. Second-year starters, first-year starters, and Layden Robinson.
And Bryce.
So what are we going to be next year? That's the only point I'm trying to make. Is that next year you're going to have a veteran offensive line, regardless of who's coaching them, you're going to have a veteran group.
I go back to what Seth, I'll go back to what Seth said. Are you?
Should have a veteran
Who's leaving?
Yeah.
You know, like,
and that's
not
been
to name
our
names,
problem
but
every
we hear-
freaking year. Is like we always go, oh, but yeah, look what we got next year. And
well,
then
we
something
thought
happens,
we thought
right?
you had an O-line on the right side that was going to be Foster, Robinson, and Fothery.
Yeah.
Fothery gets hurt, you're going true freshman.
So you don't know.
Yeah.
But ideally, if we can get a veteran offensive line coming back next year, I just feel like this everything's going to really fix itself a lot.
I feel like I've
think
said
you're
that
gonna
on
need
this
a
show.
new guy.
I know. I was like, I'm trying not to be the guy that Billy's talking about, always trying to counter what you just said.
I'm over
I
here
got a lot of
sunshine
counter-
pumping, dude.
You are, bro. I'm like, I'm trying to.
Hey,
I'm trying to get on board
it's
with
good
it.
checks and balances. I like
You guys, come on, bring it on.
We need it.
This is not Fox News or CNN. We have mixed opinions up here every
All
time.
right,
every
let's hit
once
a
in while.
break. We'll come back. I do want to ask about the O-line because it did kind of work in the second half. So we'll talk about that. Chips and queso at Costa Vida, guys. They're going to be all over the place here this weekend for the game. Sweet pork and chili lime chicken tacos and quesadillas available from their food trailer at the Fan Zone at the corner of Joe Route Boulevard and Houston Street. Chips and queso, chili lime chicken, and sweet pork nachos available at the All-American Club. Plus, you got chili lime chicken, sweet pork burritos available at the Yard and the Northwest concession stand on the third deck. And, of course, they invite everybody to stop by their store there, Costa Vida in South College Station. That is 4501 Millspark Circle. Start your game day off right with a breakfast taco, coffee, or stop by for lunch or even dinner. And most importantly, thank you to all of our veterans. Costa Vida is offering 25% military discount every day since they opened in 2020. So make sure you show your ID when you go there. Say hi to Holly out there. Great place, Aggie owned and operated, 4501 Millspark Circle in College Station. It is Costa Vida. Go check it out. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance
Is that
Studio.
McDonald's? Sure.
Yeah.
Look at this.
It's good.
Branded,
Look at this McDonald's line.
That's a good one.
That's better than Mizzen in Maine.
So
Sorry,
work
Ross.
straight sent his workwear.
I've got
That's a good commercial.
We've got the czars of offensive line breakdown. So what was better? What changed? Was it just the repetition? Was it they got sorry.
Randy Quaid.
I'll tell you,
Randy
Quaid, that was great. I'll tell you, the first play of the game, I was like, wow, they broke out something new. They did quick game and they got their hands down or whatever they did, and they ran it only one other time. Yeah. And so I was like, oh well.
And they had a screen.
They tried. They did a screen.
They did
quarterback
sneak.
They did full slides. They're continuing the quarterback sneak deal, which I love.
I'm telling y'all, they listen to this show.
It's a huge coincidence.
Well, what they did with the quarterback sneaks against South Carolina, I was like, are y'all seriously yeah, Olin and everybody with a pulse.
And it was great. But the first half they would do some full slides and guys were trickling in. You're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It was very annoying to watch that early on, and whatever they were doing, I'm not gonna get into that. But they flipped the script in the second half where they ran those same plays, but they didn't mess them up, and they were efficient and effective. I'm sure you could look up the stats of first, second half, but I mean it was like a night and day difference. And had they been executing like they did in the second half and the first half, it would be a completely different game than we're talking about. But they didn't, you know what I mean? So it's just like we've been doing this whole season or in this whole show. It's frustrating to see because they can do it, and they did it. They proved that they could do it, but they just didn't the first half. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what you can attribute that to, but it didn't work out. But they have the talent up there. I have no doubt that we're going to go out and dominate against Mississippi State. I know that's crazy possibly to say, but I have no doubt that we're going to do that.
Yeah. Even with their twists and turns and all that they do.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are a bad matchup for the Aggie O-line. Yeah. I think they're going to come after them because I think they know, enough to know Max Johnson's hurt. I'm sure Jimbo was pissed that came out as quickly in the way it did because Max did finish the game. That could have been something in a perfect world where you take the field at game day and you realize he's not. But I think he's banged up enough that I don't think you're seeing him. So I think you're going to see a quarterback that's never played.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I've heard
on
some
him?
good things from practice this week in terms of kind of throwing on the run and escaping and then looking over the top and. But I mean, this is SEC football. Defense held KJ Jefferson to 3 points a few weeks ago. They're not good, and over time, you can outlast them. And I think A&M will win. But
it's one of those. It'll be one of those games where the offensive line, it's on your shoulders, boys.
I don't have a bookie.
You'll cover your guys.
But if I did, I'd bet Mississippi State to cover a million times out of a million.
It does feel like
I might have done that even without.
I mean,
with Max playing.
I love our offense. I love our ability to go do things. 18.5 is that's laughable.
Well, let's talk about the flip side. Is Will Rogers going to play? He's been returned to practice in some capacity. We don't know exactly what. I had Darnett say he'd be. I forget what he was cryptic about it. He wasn't definitive.
We had an insider say that it's been the same case the last 2 weeks.
For weeks, yeah. So, they're not going to put that kid in harm's way at this point in the season if he's not ready. Without Will Rogers, even with him, that offensive struggle. But without him, I think you win this game defensively for A&M. And they're getting their corners back. And I think that could be you look for that to be a dominant game for the Aggie defense.
That's the thing is I think our D-line is just going to tear apart Mississippi State's offensive line.
Yeah.
Aggie defense should have a little something to prove this week. And I don't mean just because you had two young freshman corners, but I mean in general, you were on the field to win the game. You didn't get to stop. You had a quarterback throw for 376 or whatever it was. You gave up. You did a much better job against Judkins this year, but he still went over 100 on you. Every time it felt like they got inside the 10, they just popped it in on you.
Mm-hmm.
You had a receiver mossing your guys all day. It wasn't a good.
That guy's good. I mean, I don't know.
Well, the receiver, running back, quarterback were. Was that as good as A&M seen this year? The three?
Harris?
The three. Like I'm saying.
If you're talking three,
yeah,
sure. I'd
because
agree.
Bama had the quarterback on that day. I think Jackson Dart's he's a better passer than Milroe, but on that day, the quarterback was great on the deep ball. The receiver was awesome, Burton, but Judkins a better running back than Jace McClellan. So I think that was the best three-headed monster they faced this year, and all three of them did well. Yeah. The biggest credit I give, though, guys, is to Jackson Dart, because I think he got rid of the ball so many times and kept them out of being behind.
Yeah, that was the theme of their day, and I guarantee you that was what Lane was preaching. It's like, they're going to get to you, get rid of the ball.
Yeah,
and that's as much as I despise the guy, great thing to tell your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the things that we did good on offense as well. We talk about how are we successful in the second half. Go look at first and second down.
Yeah,
we were actually gaining yards.
Yes.
We weren't in second and 10, second and 9 every time.
How many times did Max get sacked Saturday?
Was it one?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was one time. I'm getting the stats up one time.
One time.
And then we got
How many
them
times
one
did
time.
he get sacked after the first quarter against South Carolina last week?
It was the second drive, and that was it.
Yeah. So for in the last 7 quarters, let's just say 7. In the last 7 quarters, A&M's given up 1 sack. And against an Ole Miss defense that currently ranks 3rd in the SEC in total defense, A&M scored 28 points. Bronny's being on this stat that, he didn't look up, but someone passed on to him. He's pawned it off as his own. That A&M has, they only scored 28 points despite getting 30 first downs, and that's some damning indictment on the offense. I look at it as, first of all, you left a very easy 7 on the board with that interception. That was a disastrous pick.
That first drive
that number,
of the third quarter.
That explains in one.
And that was a lot of first downs on a drive.
That
and you left
explains
the field goal.
in one decision. That explains in one decision why you weren't at 35. Yeah, and you got a field goal block. It's very simple. That conversation's nothing if you're saying, they scored 38 points in that 31st. That's not even a talking point. The offense, my point is the O-line is doing better.
Mm-hmm.
And they've done it against this past week against a better team. And as a result, shocker, the offense has done a lot better.
Yep.
And my question is, can that continue with quite likely your 3rd string quarterback? That's hard to imagine.
You know what? I think one of the studies now that we've actually got this NIL and all that stuff is to figure out like what are the most effective positions. And I think you could probably go to the NFL for this too, about NIL or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is it at some point you've got to develop that skill to be able to say, hey, I'm going to pay my line, I'm going to pay my O-line, and I'm going to pay my D-line. And we can figure it, like quarterback is obviously the most.
You need a general manager.
Right.
You need somebody managing your NIL funds that knows football.
In that regard, because that matters. Like, there's a reason left tackles get paid what they get paid. There's a reason DBs get paid what they get paid, and there's a reason quarterbacks get paid what they get paid.
Yep.
Like, those are probably 3 of the most and then defensive end, rush end.
Yeah. I will say something else about blocking that hit again this
Billy
week.
don't want to talk about NIL.
That's all right.
What about
it's the most important thing we got going on. I'll say that.
NIL.
Yeah, we were talking about managing personnel and how who gets paid and who's deciding
who does it. That's one of my questions too. Like,
it has to be created.
You still don't have a recruiting coordinator.
That's crazy.
Whose fault is that? I mean, okay.
And who is like?
So who's
that
coordinating?
Would be the conversation I would have if I was a true decision maker at A&M. Would be, hey guys, like, what's the plan for this? Why is there not a GM? Why is there not you are literally in 2023 dealing with a salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with you need a GM. Roster management is at
for sure.
And I'm not saying there's
fundraiser.
None of that. I'm not saying there's none of that going on. But I mean, that's got to be as important now as
like an actual title
recruiting.
position.
I completely agree.
And I know they made a nice, and no one talks about. There's an interesting NFL hire up there but I don't think that's in the role of GM and making those. It's like you have to be able to sit down. I think coaches, your GM, your recruiting team, and everybody, pretty much, I would think weekly, if not on some level daily, and say, hey, you know what? Seth McKinney, our center, is unhappy. He might leave. You know, USC and Henson are talking to him, you know, whatever. He might leave. And then you have to say, you have to make the decision, and it's ultimately the head coach, it'd be Jimbo's decision of let him go. Because we've got Steve, we've got Nuño, we've got Liucci. We can let him go. For the amount of NIL that he's going to command. I'll get a different center, and we can go get a starting corner. We can get 2 for 1. We're a better football team. If a receiver's doing that, you can say, okay, this receiver's going to make up a number off the top of your head. Go ahead.
20 receptions.
No,
500,000.
$500,000.
We're just talking about money. Okay.
500,000. This guy's going to demand a 500,000 NIL, and he's going to get it somewhere.
20 production.
Well,
you know,
for that much, I could have got Keon Coleman and an All ACC first team cornerback last year, or I could have got a starting tackle and Keon Coleman. So you're in a better position at receiver. And you've gone out and you've bolstered your offensive line. So who's it can't be willy-nilly. I mean, there's got to be so much coordination and structure.
Yes,
to that.
and let me tell you, I guarantee you, it is harder to do this in college than it is in the NFL.
Oh God!
And we're taking this so lightly that it's so frustrating to see what's going on, and the people that are over it just not care. It almost feels like, because it's so important and so vital. But it's being treated, I don't know.
I don't think it's a not care at all. I think it's just I question the organization structure, like the grand plan.
Well, that's what I'm saying
master
too.
Plan.
And it's harder in the NFL where they've got all these positions doing it.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with more of this if you want. Freak of the Week and Sleeper of the Week plus Pick 6. That and more is TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Garner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Steve and Southwest still with us. Billy will be back in a minute. All right, guys, let's do everybody's favorite segment, the Freak of the Week.
It's the Freak of the Week. When did we start that? It feels like years ago.
I think it was the very first time we did it.
It's like, I don't know why.
Just kind of rolled off the tongue.
Definitely before I got here.
Yeah, you're like, nothing that dumb would still exist.
It's like the same amount of syllables as the Three Companies song. You know? just kind of fits.
So who's going to go first?
I'll go. I'm going to go with Walter Nolan again. I know I picked him a lot this year, but I think that he's going to have a great game against this offensive line. He's going to need to have a great game, impact this the running game, the passing game, everything they've got going over there. And I think that's where we're going to win this game and where we win a lot of games is the impact of our defensive line. But we're going to need him.
Okay. Walter Nolan for Seth. Who do you got, Steve?
I'm going with Amari Daniels. I think this is listening to Billy, this is going to be a game where we're going to need to be able to run the football effectively, and maybe having a quarterback that's a running threat, helps open some of that up because it does affect the defense and how they play you. So, let's get Amari Daniels over 100 yards this week.
Okay.
Freak of the week, Billy.
You picked him as the Freak of the Week.
I did.
I would have thought maybe Sleeper of the Week.
Could've.
I liked it for that one. Freak of the Week. Who am I going with here? I'm going to go. I'm thinking of the matchups here with Mississippi State. I'm thinking of a QB. Potentially, they're going to have some issues there. I'm going to go with Shamar Turner. A bounce back, a motivated Shamar Turner. He got kicked out of the game.
He gets to play the first half, right?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's not. I didn't know that either.
I think that's for targeting.
Just targeting.
I think. I'm pretty sure they said.
Jimbo
no.
said it in the pressure, he'll be back.
I'm gonna go with a motivated Shamar Turner with something to prove. They're gonna try to run it a little bit to take the pressure off the quarterback. Shamar's good against the run. I think in particular. I might even go him and McKinley Jackson. McKinley with his last crack against a home state school, being a senior from Mississippi. I think those two guys wreak a little havoc up front in the trenches.
Okay.
Nice.
Now it is time for the Sleeper of the Week presented by the Sleep Station. Go see Jared McLeod and ask about the Tempur-Pedic and the purple mattress in the special.
I'm asking, Jared.
Jared, holler.
Tempur-Pedic. I've done a little research. I think Tempur-Pedic
thinking about it
over the purple.
All right.
Purple's new. I like the
established.
I've got a Tempur-Pedic. It's good.
Okay.
All right.
Tell the difference.
Thank you, Mr. McLeod.
Yeah.
Mr. McLeod.
Hey, I'm just vouching for you.
Texas and Harvey in front of the Lowe's at William D. Fitch and Highway 6. Website, thesleepstation.com. All right, Steve, you go first. Sleeper of the Week.
Okay. I don't know. I don't actually know his full name.
Okay, that's good.
I know you're picking.
That's who I'm picking. The possible quarterback, Henderson.
Jalen Henderson.
Jalen Henderson, yeah. I mean, dude, what if he comes out and just goes nuts?
I'm here for it. Let's do it.
We're like, where the hell's this guy been all year? That's who I'm picking.
I love the what if.
Well, you stole my guy, man. Okay. Let's just, I'll load up on some sleepers. Hopefully we've got the cornerback position woken up this week and everybody's back and healthy, but that's going to be my situation. I mean, let's just pretend it's Will Rogers, so it's going to be important to try to lock that position down. And if not, let the D-line go to town and put pressure on the guy that is playing. So
okay, there we go. Billy?
Am I allowed to pick a sleeper of the week I'm not going to. I would have picked Amari Daniels as my sleeper of the week. I think
you can.
Rules. I'm not going to do that. So
you're allowed.
At receiver,
it's your show.
I don't know how much offense is gonna go this week. I think they're going to win this game off defense. And I think if I'm going to pick a sleeper of the week,
I feel like you're sleeping on our offense, man. But
I might be. I'm going to pick a sleeper of the week. I think I'm going to go. You pick Jalen Henderson.
Steve did, yeah.
I could see him making some surprising, plays where people just like, oh, this is, I'm going to go with, on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with a Deuce Harmon interception.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Deuce Harmon pick.
Pick six?
Should we?
I know better.
Should we do that?
Call for a pick six. My sleeper of the week is going to be a Deuce Harmon pick, and I am going to call for a defensive score,
Okay.
defensive touchdown.
I'll
I don't
take
know
it.
if it's pick six, sack, forced fumble. I'm going defensive touchdown.
I think you have the Aggies scoring at least 20-plus points.
Sidebar.
I do.
Last week, I don't think we did it. I don't think
24
we
to
gave
10
up.
maybe.
We didn't
20,
give up
20,
a
22, 20, 23 to
We
10.
didn't give up a what?
We
Seth?
didn't give up a special teams or defensive touchdown score last
No,
week.
but we
right?
did get a kick blocked.
Yeah,
So.
kind of
well.
significant.
Mm.
It stinks too because that was a game saving, potentially season saving special teams play. The most dramatic turn of events we've seen since Devon A-Chain running the kickback for the touchdown. I mean, I know Anais had a return since then, but that was like such a massive momentum swing.
And it was going to be good, dude. It was
going to
be good.
It kept the same.
The kick was going to be
trajectory.
good. He drilled it, and it's one of those years, man.
It is.
Again. All right.
One of those. And for Jimbo, it's like it's one of those.
Nuño.
Sorry.
For Jimbo, it's like it's one of those tenures. It's like we can go and talk so much about, God, he's got to be just like.
Who sings it? What might have been?
Garth. No.
no.
Little Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
What might have been.
When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we are going to do our pick six and sing a little bit.
Here we go.
It's TexAgs. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Those of you listening on The Zone, we're going to keep going on Pick 6 on YouTube, but go back to Louis. Oh, man, listen, we can wrap it up quickly. We got like 4 minutes to do 6 games.
We can try, but
we're not going to make 4 minutes.
Yep. Number 3, Michigan, 9-0. At number 10, Penn State, 8-1.
At Penn State.
Beaver Stadium, Fox broadcast, Michigan, with the sign stealing scandal still happening, favored by 4.5.
What time is that game?
11
Michigan's
a.m.
been really good. Michigan has played no one. It's on the road. It's a whiteout.
It's 11 a.m. though.
Penn State hadn't won a damn thing that matters, it feels like.
I don't even know what this is.
I don't know why in the new studio, we won't have glass.
That's going to be nice.
I don't know what he's saying.
People try to talk to us.
I think he's talking about, what's his name?
Like we can hear you through the glass.
Stallion. What's his name?
Hunter Stallions?
I think that's what he's doing.
I'm picking Michigan. I'll be
Seth still believes
non-dramatic about it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Michigan too, only because it's 11. If it was a night game, I probably would have gone Penn State.
I'm going to go. I'm actually going to go. I'm going to go. I need to make up a game here. I'm going to go.
Yeah, you do.
I'm still going to go Michigan. 4.5. I almost want to say Penn State to lose by a field goal or win.
I can see that.
You know what? It's a whiteout.
At 11.
But in the Big Ten, the 11 a.m.s are that's
big
like what
noon.
They do.
It's a big deal, but
big noon kickoff with the crew.
It's just a different crowd.
Can't stand Fox and their. I'm going to go because of that. I'm going Penn State.
Penn State it is.
Because of that.
Let's actually let the angry elephant news and social center take over. Hannah, you do the next few games.
All right. Well, the next one is number 8, Alabama at Kentucky, and Alabama is favored 10.5.
I'm going Alabama.
Yep. All day. Alabama.
They could have a letdown, but a letdown I think still is a 14-point win for Bama. I'm going Bama. I think their defense got touched up a little bit against LSU. I think Nick Saban gets them ramped up and pissed off. I like Bama in that one. Kentucky's hosted a lot of important home games this year, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
It seems that way.
This next one, I'm a little torn on, guys. Let's go to Hannah.
This next one is number 13, Tennessee, at number 14, Missouri. Missouri's favored by 1.5.
So let me just say it because people get mad. I'm not telling you what to do here, but Luther Burden is questionable.
That's the receiver for
Missouri.
stud receiver.
He's
Which I
questionable.
think could be a burden for the Tennessee defense.
Burden of hope.
All right. I'm picking Tennessee.
Let's get a text. I saw you making fun of me.
Seth's going Tennessee.
It's like that. It's a lower spread.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to make up a game on you this week. I'm going to go Tennessee also, especially if Burden's out.
Questionable.
He's not out.
Saying he's out.
He's not
I
out.
don't care if he's out.
He's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
I know
that
he's
makes
good.
a difference. If he's playing, I would probably go Missouri at home. So
questionable.
I'm going to put Tennessee for now. I'm going to pencil that in.
1.5 means almost nothing to me.
How long do we have to change this? Up till
don't
when the
start
show
this
ends,
game.
it ends.
That's
exactly.
it?
Unless there was a reason.
Tennessee is a zip big dip away from home.
Yeah,
they're a big dipper. Or they're like the Aggies, except they actually have one away from home. They went and won at Kentucky. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win at Mizzou in a close one. That should be one of the more exciting games of the weekend, I think.
All right, Anna?
All right, number 18, Utah, at number 5, Washington. Washington's favored by 9.5.
Oh, man, I really hate picking these games so bad, dude. Pac-12.
Look at Utah at 7-2. I watched them lose earlier this year on the Friday night before we played
Florida
Arkansas. No, they beat Florida.
No, they beat Florida.
But I was watching that game, and even against Florida, I'm like, this Utah team they ain't got it without. And if you had told me Cam Rising went,
the old pig farmer.
But here they are at 7-2.
Yeah. Anyways,
that dude's an incredible coach.
He's great. He's great. I'm picking Washington because they have a great quarterback, and that matters.
They do. I'm picking Utah to cover. Washington to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Liucci on this one. Give me Utah to cover.
I like Utah's defense, physicality. Washington, Penix has had a great Heisman contending season. I love what Grubb does offensively as their OC, but I think they've had some weeks where they've struggled more than others, and I think Utah will create a little bit of a struggle.
Yep. Hannah?
All right. Next up, we have number 9, Ole Miss, at number 2, Georgia. Georgia's favored by 10.5.
This is interesting. I love it, man. I'm gonna pick I'm gonna pick Ole Miss to cover this, but they're not gonna win.
I'm glad because I'd never pick against Georgia at home because they've burned me before.
Yeah, they have.
Huge spreads, and
I'm
they
not
always
doing it.
cover. So
They always do.
give me Georgia.
I always have picked Georgia, but I'm.
They've gotten me.
He's a big Kiffin
Lane
fan.
Kiffin's gotten me when I've believed in like the explosivity of their offense, and then it just falls flat against real defenses. These ain't the two corners that they played against last weekend. Trey Harris, if they're going to throw those balls up like that, I think Georgia gets some picks. I am interested in how Missouri ran the ball against Georgia. And I do think this is not the Georgia defense we've seen the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think you know what? I'm with you, Seth. I'm going to go Ole Miss. I'm going to take the bait here. I'm going to go Ole Miss to cover.
He talked himself into it.
Georgia to win. Because I think Jackson Dart, I think they can run enough. But here's my deal with Ole Miss. I don't think they're that good. I just don't think they're that good, but they keep winning. It's probably what people thought of A&M in 2020 outside of College Station.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're all that, but they keep winning. By the way, that A&M game outside of their loss to Bama was actually the closest game they played all year.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody say, well, LSU. No, actually, they took a lead earlier in that game against LSU, and LSU tried to come back and were throwing in the end zone, needing more than a field goal. That was Saturday was Ole Miss's second toughest game of the season, but all it is for the Aggies was a loss.
Another L.
Another L. Let's go back to Hannah.
I feel like I'm taking on these picks this week, but I'm in last place. But now,
no,
like,
not anymore, right?
Yeah, I had a 5-1 week, but I'm last. But I'm creeping like I'm only one pick out of
week.
like.
We all had a big week last week.
I'm 2 picks out of like second.
Yeah, you are last. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It can flip.
But I'm a pick behind OB and Carolina.
It can flip in
right?
1 week though. It's close enough.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is super close.
Yeah.
All right. Last up, y'all have Mississippi State at Texas A&M. A&M is favored by 18.5.
How the line got like this, I don't know. A 17-point.
I don't know
victory.
how it would have with Max.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but a 17-point victory still doesn't cover, and that's what I think we'll get.
Okay.
And so A&M will win, but will not cover.
I kind of agree with you in that range. I think A&M by at least, I would say A&M by 10 in this one would be mine.
Yeah. I'm with you guys. Give me
maybe 13. Like I said, 23-10.
Give me A&M to get to win and become bowl eligible. Nuño, whoop. That's improvement over last year.
I always make fun.
Baby steps.
I always make fun of one of our buddies because they'll sit here and come on and they would go bat crap crazy if you'd have said bowl eligibility. And they'd be the first one going crazy about Jimbo's misconstrued quote about getting bowl eligible, kind of like Kiffin did.
Uh-huh.
But I always point out to him that I remember under Fran, they beat, and he knows I'm going to mess with it. He's going to text me today. Under Fran, they beat somebody to win like their 6th game. And this was in the years where, they were getting to 8 or 9. Getting to 8 was, something. They won their 6th game, and after the game, everybody was walking towards the middle field, and he saw me. And he rolled his helmet to me and goes, "We're going bowling, baby." And I always bring it up.
We're going bowling, baby.
He doesn't get mad at me. He just laughs. He's like, "Man, F you." We're going bowling, baby. Well, I was like, "Well, it was pretty good." Celebration, just a little roll. But, yeah,
we're going to Houston, baby.
It's not better. It's not better than when Dat Wynn almost decapitated Rick Rigsby in '98 when you guys beat Missouri late in the game.
At home,
Toya Jones recovered the fumble on the punt, and that was a good Missouri team. And Dat was, celebrating in the rain. And he took his helmet and threw it up.
Oh, no.
And
oh, no.
Rick Rigsby, who I saw a picture of Dr. Rigsby. The big rig looks incredible.
Does he?
Yeah, he looks awesome.
That's
He's
great.
lost so much. He looks great. But
Ozempic.
And
I can't work hard these days, man.
Ozempic.
Hard work doesn't pay off these
I'm
days,
just kidding,
man.
Dr. Rigsby.
He looks great. And
I don't care how.
But
anybody
Dat,
gets
he almost
there.
didn't get the chance to look great because Dat threw his helmet 50 yards in the air and it landed like I could see it coming down. And I saw Rigsby running out on the field like this, and that helmet was coming, and it
barely
missed him.
Oh, that's.
And I remember another story from
reckless,
that day where
reckless
you want
stats.
to talk about competitive, and it's in the heat of the moment. And I think that game, and he went up. I know because Dan's told it, and I think Dr. Rigsby told it, and he went up to Dan, and he was like, "Hang in there, son, young man. We're gonna win this thing." Dan was so mad at the game. He goes, "Take your bleeping, don't bleeping touch me." You know, like it could have been you, me.
Wait, who did
Dan
this?
did that.
To who?
To Rigsby.
To Rigsby?
Yes, of all
Jeez,
people.
Dan.
He didn't know. But the funny,
come on.
when you hear Dan tell the story, he didn't know it was him.
He didn't know it. Yeah.
So, like, it's like you would know one, and Dan had no idea it was him. Just someone coming up, like, "Hey, man, it's going to be all right." You know, in that one moment where you're like, "We're losing right now."
Yeah,
Don't mess
you're not
with
in
it.
the
That
mood.
game was such a slog.
But that's why, hey.
Rain. And what did we win? Like 10-8 or
I think
something?
it was like, if I had to guess, I'd say 17-10 maybe.
Yeah.
Or 17-13. It was dicey.
What game was this?
Mizzou.
But
no.
that year y'all won.
The whole year, yeah.
That year y'all won the Big 12.
Yeah, every
so
game was
many
that
close
way.
games.
Every
but
game
you
was
won
that way.
them. And this
And
year,
that's where
so
winning
many,
becomes a culture and becomes a habit.
so many close
and you
games
figure
and
out
you
how to
lose
win.
them. And I just wonder, like, I see it in Ananias, and I see, but like, where's the Dan?
Exactly.
Where's the other thing I liked about it was, well, here's one thing y'all did have, and you talked about that y'all had a very veteran offensive line.
Yep. Cam,
Very
Rex,
experienced, very veteran. Samisi, you.
I just believe if your offensive line isn't like kind of the leader of the team, like the culture, the mentality of the team, then what is?
And you had an eraser on defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know who, but they had plenty of other great players. But I mean, you had a guy that, like, fourth quarter of a game, who makes that, like, with a Dat win, and Edgerrin Cooper's had an incredible year, but with a Dat win at Ole Miss or a Vaughn, or
They're making a
you're going to
play.
make that
Yeah.
play happens on that drive,
Mhm.
whether it's him with a sack, whether it's a forced fumble, whether it's a deflected pass or a rushed pass, whatever. One of those two guys, you're just watching that drive going, I know he's going to do this.
Yeah.
And they're just not quite there.
Not quite there.
Yeah.
Not quite there.
Well,
all right.
Awkward ending.
It didn't have to be.
Well, I gotta run.
It didn't have to be.
I
Host
think I
Nuño.
like the awkward ending, and I think you do too.
It's got to end at some point. Hey, goodbyes.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.